Ladies and gentlemen, our referee has called a stop to this contest, declaring the winner by knockout and new MMA show! Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another exciting round of a new MMA show. I'm your host, Michael Hansen. I do all kinds of things with microphones. Sometimes you could say that they are tubular because I'm a ring announcer and cage announcer. And I am joined this week, as I often am, nay, as I always am, by my two buddies, both of whom know a lot about MMA. Introducing to you first, he's in the Empire State of New York. He is Mark Priaulx. What's up, my friend?
Ear. What's up, boys? Not going to say a lot because I will fill you guys in, listening and watching, on the fact that we just had about a 20-minute delay while Mike had to restart his computer that is from the Jurassic era.
No.
So we are going to get right into this thing so we can get moving.
My computer is from pre-COVID times, that's for sure. Pre-COVID. Significantly pre-COVID.
That's a whole different lifetime. Are you serious?
You're not wrong about that. It's a whole other way of living. Okay, the man speaking, he is in Florida, the Sunshine State. We know him as the Nicaraguan Nightmare, Omar Artola. What's up, man?
What's going on? Getting ready for this 10K my wife's got me running soon. I just bought some compression socks for my thighs, which are apparently a thing.
For your thighs?
Yeah, I get, when I run, my thighs are the first things. Like, my lungs are fine. I don't have a problem running for a while, and my lungs are totally fine. It's my legs, like my shins and my calves, that really are like, fuck you.
Oh, okay.
And apparently these compression socks are supposed to help. So we're going to give those a shot.
For sure.
Running.
I wear compression socks even every time I play basketball.
Oh, okay. We also bought these Z-liners, which are supposed to be really good insoles that are supposed to form to your feet and be really shock absorbent.
Nice.
So we're looking into those as well. Hopefully we'll get everything, I think, by this weekend, so we'll be able to give it a shot. But this 10K is in like 4 weeks, man.
Look at you guys becoming runners over there. You did the 5K, now you're doing the 10K. Next thing you know, you're going to be out here telling us you're doing a half marathon.
I've seen the numbers for this half marathon. These are dumb numbers. I don't know why people keep running.
What do you mean numbers? Of amount of people?
Of the amount of mileage to this. Like, where are you going? Why are we running so far? The 10K's got my mind blown as it is, to be honest. And then I see these like half marathons. And then there's the Dopey Challenge, which is to do all 3 races sequentially, basically back to back. So Friday you do one, Saturday you do another one, and then Thursday, and then Sunday you do the half marathon. So you've effectively run like 30 miles or something by the time it's all said and done. That's
just crazy
banana shit.
So some of my friends have done ridiculous things. Like one of my friends did, I forget what it even was. It was like 100 miles nonstop for like whatever amount of days. Like I can't even, like, I forget. But like people do some crazy shit.
I remember once, I don't remember if it was at a presentation or if it was something online, but they were asking a runner, like, what do you do when you have to go to the bathroom in these long journeys of running, right? These long distance runs. And he's like, I just run and piss at the same time. In my head, I'm like, dude, that's so fucking crazy. Like, I can't imagine like running sideways or something and just pull it out to just piss. That's banana shit to me. Yeah. Even running and eating seems wild to me, even though I did a combination of that a little bit with banana. But
how many miles is a 10K?
6.
Like 6?
6 and change.
God, count me out. Dude, running
the
a
way
10K,
I'm trying
5K, any K, count me out. It is not on my bucket list.
So you're basically running like a quarter marathon. So yeah, your next step is half marathon, my man.
For me, it's really about the time spent, and like a like a 5K I did in a half hour basically. So I was like, it's like an okay chunk of time, right? I feel like a 10K should take me about an hour. I'm also okay with that. the idea of running for like 2 hours does
no.
not sound fun to me.
No.
You know what I mean?
Oh, it's going to take you way. Your pace is going to slow if you're talking about a half marathon. It's going to be more than that.
Yeah, that doesn't.
You ain't keeping the same pace the whole way.
I think an hour is that might be my limit right there.
Yeah.
Hey guys, correct me if I'm wrong. Is this the And New Track and Field podcast? I don't think so.
Yeah, let's go. Get us going. 10:14 p.m. over here already.
Yeah, come on. All right, this week we are going to discuss all of the fights from this past weekend's UFC Fight Night. Tuivasa versus Tybura. We're going to get an update from Mark on his personal rankings system that he maintains that we call the Priaulx Rankings. Then we are going to find out what's going on in the world of MMA outside of the cage in our little segment called Inside the MMA Sphere with Omar. And then we're going to look ahead to this coming weekend's Bellator and UFC action. And then I guess we'll wrap up at some time before sunrise. Before we get into any fight talk, gentlemen, let us first address our audience. Hey, if you're watching this on YouTube right now, thank you guys so much. We love each and every one of you guys. We appreciate you. Do us a favor. Drop us a like. Hit the little thumbs up. Takes about a quarter of a second and costs you literally nothing. You're already watching the damn video, but it helps us out so much. If you've been watching a few of our clips or videos and you've been liking what you've been watching and you haven't subscribed yet, go ahead and subscribe to our channel. Do all those things as well. Also supports us tremendously. But our favorite way of engaging with our audience is down in the comments below. If you like any of our takes, let us know down in the comments. If you disagree with any of our takes, let us know down in the comments. We want to hear your takes. As always, keep it classy. Let us know also your picks. As we make our picks, we want to hear your picks down in the comments below. If you want audio only, we got you there. You can find us wherever you get your podcasts. And of course, we're on social media at @&new_MMA show and all the places that are relevant and fine. All right, let's get into this because it is already late. We're a little behind the 8 ball, but that's okay. We're here to discuss the mixed martial arts. This week, the name on the marquee has got to be Marcin Tybura, who this past weekend UFC Fight Night, Tuivasa versus Tybura, defeated Tai Bam Bam Tuivasa by submission via rear naked choke. The official time 4:08 of round 1. Oh my God. I will admit, I did not see this coming. Mark, let's start with you. Did you see this coming? And what do you feel about how this fight went?
We all whiffed. We all wanted to believe in Tai, and this one hurt as a fan of Tai, man. You know, the other losses you could accept, like they were against elite studs, and Tybura was kind of that one step down. And as a fan of Tai, you were like, you know, you hoped he could get it done, and I really thought he could. And I loved how he was looking on the feet for the first minute and a half or whatever it was. He was ripping leg kicks, which I wanted to see. He had intent to injure on every shot he was throwing. He was placing them beautifully, mixing in the elbows, which I loved, cut him open. I mean, I was like genuinely excited in that first minute or two of like, wow, Tai is coming for blood tonight. And then one takedown, and it all went south. I really thought that Tybura would have to work harder than that to find a sub on Tai, or to just control him as easily as he did. Now, granted, he did work hard on the feet and during that early barrage that was coming at him. I don't want to skip past that. He certainly endured to get to the takedown and even to earn the takedown. But once there wasn't a ton of resistance. And, you know, props to Tybura for adjusting and changing the fight the way that he did. But it came easier than I ever thought it would on the ground. And I don't think that was a great look for Tai. And he tried to tough it out. Obviously, give him credit for that. He never tapped, but it was relatively easy once they got into a grappling situation for Tybura to wrap that fight up. So a big win for him to bounce back and maintain his status in the division. And on the flip side, it's 4 straight L's for Tai now. Didn't look great once it hit the mat, which is going to be a problem against a lot of heavyweights if he can't at least shore that up somewhat. And he's going to need the next one. I mean, the job is safe because he's Tai Tuivasa and he's a popular guy and he's got his fair share of highlights and all this, but 4 L's in a row is not good no matter who you are.
Yeah, man. Omar, let's bring you in here. What were your thoughts across the 4 minutes of this fight?
I mean, I guess the quickness at which it happened might have been more of a surprise, but there was nothing really surprising about the things that happened in that fight, right? We knew that Tai is very dangerous on the feet. I mean, it took him all of 20, 25 seconds to open up Marcin Tybura. Didn't take very long. Damage had been done early. Blood had been spilled early. But like we had talked about, you know, he's really lacking a ground game, and not even just takedown defense, but also what the right things to do on the ground are. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is not my thing, but there I feel like we're very obvious things, and even through the commentary, you know, with the commentary kind of guiding people along with what should be done and what shouldn't be done. Like even visually, if you've watched MMA for a while, you could tell that there were certain decisions that were being made on the ground by Tai that were just not the right decisions. And you know, he got eaten up on the ground as a result of it. You know what I mean? No one's disputing the power he has on the feet, the skill he has on the feet, because it's more than just the fact that he can throw hands. You know, his technique is pretty damn good. But it's really that hole in his game, and it's a big hole in that ground game of his. The thing I think that gives me equal amounts of frustration, equal amounts of optimism, is that the hole is so big that I think if you really just trained it, I feel like he can close those holes up pretty quickly. And that makes me sad, because I feel like these are things that you should have done forever ago, like when you first started this whole thing, right? But here we are, and hopefully he can get some of those holes cleared up. I really don't think they're that. I don't think we're talking about black belt level holes that he needs to make adjustments on. I really think these are just simple fundamentals that I think he just needs to work into his reactions and his game. And I think we might see a much better time in the future, ideally, if he does that. But as of right now, anybody who can get a takedown and can keep him down, I mean, you can see him trying to muscle out of all the get-ups. There's no technique involved in it at all. And anybody with a decent ground game is going to do that kind of abuse to him all the time.
It actually kind of makes me think of and appreciate the brute strength of Derek Lewis, for whom there is an entire highlight reel of him just muscling out of like grounded positions.
Yeah, but even to Derek Lewis's credit, like Derek Lewis even times certain get-ups properly.
That's true.
Like, yes, he muscles them for sure, but he doesn't muscle them from like a 0 point. He's always using somebody's momentum against them, or finding a door to walk out of. He's never just like on his shoulders and like whoop. Like that's never really just him. You know, he has a bit of technique to what he does. He just makes it work for him.
Mark, remind me, what were the odds of this fight? Was Tai the favorite? Or was it near even?
It was more or less even, but yeah, Tai was favored. He was minus 125. Tybura was plus 105.
Man, it is tough to see a fan favorite like Tai Tuivasa. It's like, don't look now. The man has lost four straight. And after not having lost since 2019, he was on a nice little streak there. And now he's on a losing streak. And I hate to see this, because he's so good and he's so popular, and for good reason too. But let's quickly talk about Tai now that I'm on the topic of Mark. Where do you think Tuivasa can go from here at heavyweight? Give me the matchup that can maybe help him right the ship. No offense to his next opponent.
Yeah, I mean, as we've alluded to, if you are the UFC, you are looking at this like, we need to find the guy that Tai is going to knock out. You're trying to avoid a grappler. Like, you know, if you look down the rankings, there's like a Rodrigo Nascimento, but like, do you want to go with a guy like that who could potentially take him down and tap him again? So like, you kind of like got to skip past a guy like that. You don't want to go too far down and have it look like, oh my God, like this is who they gave Tai. Like, you know, I don't want to throw someone's name out there, but you know the kind of guys I'm talking about. So it's a little tricky, but the one I settled on, because he would give him a striking match, and he is kind of right at the edge of these rankings where you could justify it, is Waldo Cortez Acosta. And I'm not saying that's any sure thing, but if we got to try to find someone that we would hope Tai could get it done against, that's where it went.
Spoilers, Waldo is now booked as of like a couple days ago.
Oh, I fucking checked yesterday. It said nothing. Who's he fighting?
Waldo, he's fighting Robles de España.
Oh, really?
Whoa.
Yep.
Holy shit.
Robelis.
Wow.
Damn, dude.
Yeah.
It still says
UFC,
nothing.
what is it? St. Louis, I guess? May 11th? Is what I'm saying.
Yeah, Sure Dog's not even updated. Well, then, I'm going to have to adjust my my thoughts.
I apologize. I ruined your life.
I don't know. There's not a lot of fucking choices. Who'd you go with, Omar?
I went with Alexander Romanov for that very same reason. There's not a lot of choices. It's not a ton of choices, man.
Just asking him to get wrestle fucked again.
But like what? But where else at heavyweight are you really going to go? My thing is, I wanted to put him as close to the edge of the rankings for him to sort of defend his spot as possible. But again, I mean, just to your point, everybody's going to try to take him down, and there's a ton of people here who can. It's hard to avoid all that right now.
I know. It's fucking hard. It is very hard. Who's
the best you can do? I mean, if you want to have Tai sit out for a minute and maybe see what comes out of this Acosta de España fight, you know what I mean? Because
God, I don't think I want
either one of those could be a good fight.
Bellies, though.
I mean, he's got a better shot at beating Robelis than he did a lot of these guys that are just going to ground and pound him.
Is Dontel Mays booked?
I don't know.
Let's see. Dontel Mays. He's fighting Caio Machado. Maybe Dontel Mays win or lose. So you just again, he
absolutely will not take him down. You're absolutely
get
right.
A striker. Yeah,
he is booked though. He's booked against Caio Machado.
That's what I just said.
Oh, my bad. I don't know.
Kyle.
That's why I said win or lose. Either way, his next fight is Tai.
Oh, I got you.
Fuck. Okay, let's talk about the winner here. I mean, Tai, with his popularity, is probably going to be, talked about just as much, if not more, as Tybura. But we need to put some respect on this man's name for getting one of the biggest wins of his career, if not the Marcin Tybura. Omar, give me a name at heavyweight. Who does Tybura go up against next? He just lost to Tom Aspinall, and now he beats Tai Tuivasa. What do you think?
I think this might be a nice opportunity to get Almeida out there. I know we had some names for Almeida recently in the last few weeks, but this is why MMA is so fluid. Things change, things happen all the time, opportunities present themselves. And, he had a decent, I think the real thing is that he had a decent showing on the ground. And I think we've seen Almeida have such success on the ground, but not necessarily such dominance on the ground when it comes to the submission game. Might be interesting to see exactly what happens with somebody who's going to maybe potentially put up a challenge on the ground with him.
Mark?
I said last week that if Rosenstruik wasn't going to get Derek Lewis finally, then I thought the winner of this fight would be the right opponent for him, and I still do like that. And then, Tybura and Rosenstruik, whoever wins that one, has kind of earned another shot for themselves against the elite level. But I do agree with Omar. I said last week that I thought Spivak would be the right opponent for Almeida, but if not that, Tybura is kind of same vein, where he could be someone who can at least test the grappling in a similar way to what I thought Spivak could. So I don't hate that either.
Nice. Okay. All right. In the interest of time, because we have quite a bit to get through tonight, let's move on. But congrats to Marcin Tybura for getting this big win, man. And he wins and moves on. Let's go now to the... Let me get here. Here we go. In the co-main event, this fight, man, Bryan battle versus Ange Loosa. Hope I'm not butchering that too badly. Pun intended. Ends in a no contest due to an eye poke. Bryan battle pokes Loosa in the eye. what round were we in here? Was in the second
The
round?
beginning of the second. Yeah.
Omar, take us through. How did this play out? And what were your thoughts throughout this fight?
Well, I mean, there were a couple good takeaways from this fight, to be honest. I think my main concern for this fight going in was the power of Ange Loosa. And, you know, we haven't really seen Bryan battle. I think we've seen Bryan battle, and I think we talked about this last week, get kind of run over once. And that was Rinat Fakhretdinov, which is, you know, the man's a steamroller. Those things are going to happen. But Bryan battle looked goddamn fantastic on Saturday. That first round, I thought he looked absolutely fantastic. He was on point, very sharp, nice counters, nice movement. At one point, he was slipping shots and coming back with returns. I mean, he looked great. Loosa had no answers for it. He was the best Loosa could do throughout that fight was pepper a little bit on the outside to try to get some kind of timing down, get some kind of rhythm down, try to find an opening. But Loosa could literally do nothing. I think he might have touched Battle's face maybe once or twice throughout that entire first round. I mean, there was nothing doing for Loosa. And once we got into that second round, you know, it is really difficult. Like, we try not to be overly critical about things like this when it comes to eye pokes and groin shots and, you know, things like that, right? Because those things don't feel great all the way around. The problem I had with this one was he looked fucking fine, right? He looked fine. We've seen a lot of eye pokes where dudes can't open their eyes, right? They're physically incapable of opening their eyes. We've seen dudes that can't stop blinking, that can't stop touching their eyes. That there are a lot of other factors that I feel like are there in addition to the eye poke, right? Some resulting factors. Loosa just looked like somebody who like just needed somebody to blow in his eye really quick. He looked
like it's a Nintendo game.
He looked very not affected by this eye poke. I mean, we've seen dudes who can't stop walking around the ring because their eyes hurt so bad from getting poked. You know what I mean? Like, Loosa didn't present any of those secondary symptoms. You know what I mean? As an outsider looking in, he looked like he was bullshitting. I'm going to be honest. Looked like he was bullshitting.
So it sounds like you are taking the side sort of Bryan battle and saying he was looking for a way out. He was getting beat up.
I am saying that as an outsider looking in, when I hear Bryan battle make those kind of accusations, I cannot see the argument against it.
You're like, it tracks.
Yeah.
Okay. Mark, your thoughts on how this played out?
I mean, first of all, Bryan battle, man. This dude looks better every single time we see him.
Yeah.
And this was kind of exactly what I was talking about last week. Like, no offense to Ange. And I think they were saying Loosa, so that's what I'm going to say.
Really?
No offense to
Loosa,
but Bryan battle does not need to be fighting the Ange Loosas of the world anymore at this point. Like, I get it that he took the loss to Rinat Fakhretdinov, but like Omar said, Fakhretdinov is very good. It's time to let Bryan battle fight more established dudes. He has beaten everyone else. And you could see the difference in talent very early in this fight, just by the way he came out, the complete confidence that he had in the cage. He controlled the range. He pressured. He was letting himself flow in there creatively. I mean, he looked great. And then it did look like a bad eye poke when it happened. And I always try to give guys the benefit of the doubt on that. But when you say you can't fight, and then you literally try to
fight,
after the decision is read, that's not a great look.
Yeah,
so I get it why Bryan battle was pissed in his post-fight interview, and he did cut a hell of a promo there. So hopefully that partially dominant performance and the good promo were enough to get him the type of fight that he wants next, even though he had to settle for a no contest here. But yeah, that was a strange ending, just with how quickly they said they couldn't fight, and then next thing you know, he's like needs to be held back.
Well, I mean, to be fair, he was standing there, you know, for the decision, and he got upset when Bryan battle turns to him, and instead of like shaking hands, Bryan battle calls him a pussy to his face and starts cursing him out.
When
like,
the thong fits, dog.
And he goes, "I'll kill you." How about that? Loosa goes, "I'll kill you."
Yeah.
Like several
it's
times.
ridiculous, though. It's ridiculous. They were just in the middle of a fist fight. If you wanted to kill him, that was your opportunity to do that.
Okay,
Not
but
when
just-
there's
okay.
everybody in there. It's super weird, man. And
I
again,
hear you.
at no point did he even look like this eye. The eye didn't look like it was affecting him then. He looked
It's
perfectly goddamn fine when he was trying to go for Bryan the second time. Just weird.
I don't have an
It was
issue with him
weird.
getting mad. It's just odd to see a guy say I'm too compromised to
Yes.
continue fighting, but then because he gets mad, he is willing to continue fighting when the fight
But, like,
has now
is
been
he?
called. It's just,
Or is he just putting on a show because he knows his boys are going to hold him back? Like, it's
Well,
just,
yeah,
it's
you're probably not wrong.
because Loosa wasn't the one that approached Bryan. Bryan was the one that was getting in his face, and he was
That's
like,
true.
"You're a pussy." That's what I said. You're a pussy. And then it wasn't until people came and started to separate him that Loosa was like, "I kill you, I kill you." It wasn't
Yeah.
until after the referee
It's not a
came
good
in and
look.
stepped that was what was going on. It's a clown show.
For this one,
I
I
didn't
think,
care for any of that.
I think we may never know. It may very well have been that Loosa was, thought this guy is piecing me up, and now my eye is poked and my vision is a little compromised. I'm only gonna get more beat up if I try to tough this out with like one eye. And then he got called a pussy on national television, and he was like, "I'll fucking murder you, bro."
me and Mike
Yeah.
try to talk around it a little bit and, just put the facts out there, but maybe give the benefit of the doubt. Omar just is trying to get jumped by a UFC fighter.
He does. Yeah.
It's so frustrating though, because I guess I see it from the side of like if this happened to one of the guys that I train with at the gym, right? And if all the time and effort that these guys spend 25 minutes in there, right? Because now Bryan isn't going to get a win bonus, right? Because it's a no contest. And he was winning that fight. So now you've just screwed this guy out of however many thousands of dollars because you can't see. It just, when people like, and you can go back to any eye poke that we've ever talked about and things like that. I don't give people shit for these kind of things. I really don't. And because most of the time, if not almost all of the time, you can see the damage one way or the other. You can see the pain. You can see the discomfort. You can see people literally trying to fight with their one eye still being closed and open and closed and open. Like, there are dudes we've seen how fighters react to eye pokes. And then we've seen how guys use eye pokes to get out of fights. I'm not judging. I'm not saying one thing or the other because we really don't know. But again, when Bryan Battle puts it out there that this is what happened, this is how I feel about it, and I look at the facts and I look at what happened and I look at what I can see as an outsider, there's no argument for me to give Loosa, whatever it is, there's no argument for me to go for him against what Bryan Battle said. It's just not there.
Okay. Well, that being said, let's talk about where Bryan Battle can go after this very impressive performance with a disappointing result. Mark, give us a name of where Bryan Battle can go from here.
I hope not back to this same fight. I'm hearing a lot of people say they need to run it back. I disagree. I think we very clearly know who the better man is. It's time to move back up the line. As I said, I don't know what Phil Rowe is up to. Ever since he lost to Neil Magny, he seems to be due back one of these days. I think he would work. If he is still out for whatever reasons, I think another option would be Max Griffin. But someone along those lines is who I would like to see Bryan in there with.
What about you, Omar?
Yeah, I'm not really against any of that. I'm not really sure how high we want to throw him because the reality is he's looked very good. He hasn't looked like anybody's really been able to do much to him other than Renat. It might be too much. I know that Buckley and Luke are fighting soon. Maybe the loser. But like him fighting
Luke,
Buckley, I
let's
feel like
go.
feels more
If
more
Buckley's
appropriate than
there,
him fighting
great
Luke.
I think
fight.
that's
Oh my
reasonable.
God, that's a great
I
fight.
don't think he's going to be fighting Vicente Luque.
Luque feels, I don't know if he deserves.
Luque feels like a
Luque
lot,
yet.
right? Like Buckley feels like
That's
about
Luque
right.
is,
Yeah.
But Luque feels like a lot.
Yeah.
yeah, Luque
I
is like
agree.
like one step below elite in my eyes at welterweight.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe Buckley, if Buckley doesn't take care of Luque. I don't know about Luque though if he loses that fight. That still seems like a lot.
Agree.
No.
Cool. Well, let's talk about Do you guys have anything to say about Ange? How do they say it?
Loosa, they were
Loosa,
saying.
God.
I don't know. But yeah, I put down Oban Elliott. He debuted recently. He looked good. He has a little hype on his name. And I don't feel like Loosa is. I can't believe he even got this Bryan battle fight. So to me, he's not in any place to be getting big names. So that's where I went Oban Elliott.
Omar, any words that you want to speak?
Maybe a Darius Flowers. I haven't seen him around in quite some time.
Okay, moving on. Still on the main card here, UFC Fight Night, Tuivasa versus Tybura. Here we go. Ovince St. Preux gets it done via split decision over the much younger Kennedy Nzechukwu. Mark, start us off. Give us your thoughts on how this fight played out and your thoughts on the split.
Yeah, I mean, this was somewhat shocking from Kennedy, man. I mean, granted, at this point, maybe it shouldn't be, because I think what we're learning is that inconsistency is kind of a flaw of his, because we get different Kennedys, it seems. But with all the improvements that we have been seeing from him over time, and the age of OSP and the KO losses on OSP's record recently, I think we all thought we were going to see a more aggressive Kennedy Nzechukwu than what we got, coming out looking for that chin. And instead, he comes out sparring for like 10 minutes. It was almost like, okay, you go. Now I go. Like that. That's how he seemed to be approaching that fight. Nothing was fast. Nothing was aggressive. Nothing was even offbeat, really. Like it was very like, okay, now I step here. Your turn. Okay, my turn. Like it was just a strange approach. And then once he got hurt early in round 3, he woke up and we got an unreal final 3 minutes or whatever it was there, where someone on commentary said it best. I forget who it was. He said it looked like they were tied together. And it really did. Like every step a guy took back, the other guy stepped forward, and there was never more than a few inches between them. So that final 3 minutes was incredible, and they both gave a lot and took a lot in those final 3 minutes. So props to them for that. But it was too late for Kennedy by that point. And OSP fought a really good fight. I actually thought he looked way more confident in his hands than we've historically seen from him. He's usually very, very kick heavy and doesn't want to get in these types of exchanges. And in this fight, he was like, all right, I'm stepping into the phone booth. Like I'm ready to go. So that was kind of a nice progression that we don't normally see from OSP, that I wasn't expecting at age, I forget, 40, 41, whatever he is. And yeah, like I said, he fought a good fight, and he surprised a lot of people here and kind of had a little bit of and I'm still here performance, but definitely a frustrating showing for Kennedy Nzechukwu, who had teased us with, some talent that he obviously has and didn't really deliver on it here.
Omar, your thoughts of the fight and of the split?
Yeah, I'd have to agree with the sparring aspect of it. It just seemed like he was, and I think this was partially why he thought he won at the end, because I'm sure he felt good, right? Felt good, jumping around, moving around, mobile, right? OSP didn't really land anything that was like going to put Nzechukwu out. Kind of got cracked a little bit though, right at the third round. But like, to Nzechukwu's credit, his footwork did look better than I think it's ever really looked. His movement looked fantastic. But like Mark said, there was no real urgency. It wasn't even really like there was a fight. It almost felt like he was in there trying to hit pads with somebody, right? Like somebody was just there to just throw some things and kind of get something going there. But like, no real sense that there was a fight going on. And I think if there was somebody who was potentially a little bit even more aggressive, because OSP is also not necessarily the most aggressive fighter in the world, but somebody more aggressive might have been able to put Kennedy out with that kind of performance. Kennedy was doing a lot of waiting, a lot of backpedaling when he didn't need to be. We've seen him walk forward. We've seen him be the aggressor before when he didn't have all that footwork, and it's worked out for him in the past. So to see him gain some footwork and lose the aggression, and in turn lose the fight because he didn't push forward enough, doesn't really give me the idea that OSP is better than him, or even vice versa. But it just shows obviously that OSP is still here to stay, obviously. But at the same time, it just shows that Nzechukwu doesn't have a a handle on exactly what his game is yet. And I think he's still trying to figure out exactly what style is going to work for him. Not everybody who learns Muay Thai or anything like that, we all learn the same foundation, but not everything is for everybody. Some people have to make things their own. So I think that's the gray area I think we're dealing with Kennedy.
Mm-hmm. So OSP's record now improves to 27-17. And in the UFC, he improves to 15-12 in the UFC. And he snaps a 2-fight losing streak with this win over Nzechukwu. Mark, give us the name of where you think OSP can go from here.
I kind of think he became relevant again with that win. And I think he deserves a pretty solid next opponent. So I'll say, how about Dominic Reyes? I think that's a fair fight for both of these guys at this point in their career.
Excellent. Omar?
I don't hate that, actually. I went the direction of Carlos Oberg, kind of for the same reason.
Wow.
It's a good name. It's a very good name. I think it's a solid fight. I think we'll get a good stand-up fight in that competition. But it's, it's one of those ones where OSP is going to have to be on if he's going to end up winning that fight. And I think if you're going to have a performance like this one, and you're really trying to still do something in this division, I think Oberg is one of the guys to do it with.
He is fighting Menefield. I will throw that out there. So maybe you want the loser of that one or something.
Maybe, either first of all, Menefield's also been looking fucking fantastic.
Yeah,
lately.
I know.
So I don't hate either one of those if it's a loser for sure.
Yeah.
So let's talk about Nzechukwu briefly. His record falls to 12-5, and now 6-5 in the UFC. His second decision loss in the UFC. Omar, your thoughts of who could possibly match up with Nzechukwu next?
Every time I hear how many fights dudes have had in the UFC, I am baffled. Just baffled.
Yeah, he still feels
it just
very
doesn't
new,
occur
doesn't
to me, man. He does. 11 fights though?
Yeah, man.
Jesus.
Isn't that crazy?
Yes, very much so. Well, 11 fights in, and the man somehow has not fought Ian Cutelaba, so let's maybe go in that direction.
Mark.
Are you sure?
I'm pretty sure. I feel like I looked this up.
I feel like I remember him just beating Ian Cutelaba.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, dude, he did.
Oh, my God. What the hell did I look up? Oh, my God.
Yeah, in 2022. But to back up Omar a little bit here, it is hard to match him up because he has fought like everyone in the area that he is in, because he's never broken through to the rankings. He's obviously better than the bottom of the division. So like the 10 guys who are like in the clump that he is in this division, he's fought them all. So it is kind of hard to find someone for him to fight. I went Marcin Tybura. He's also been kind of up and down. He's kind of worked his way maybe back up to where Kennedy is. So, not a ton of options. That's where I'll go.
Nice. All right. Let us move on once again.
I wonder if there's a Tafa brother somewhere for Nzechukwu.
Well, they're heavyweights.
That's the wrong. Yeah, that's the wrong one.
Just fucking move on.
I'm over it. We'll move on. I'm over it.
All right. I failed to mention earlier that this went down at a little-known venue called the UFC Apex. Okay. Next fight up. Where are we here? We have a split decision win, another split decision win for Christian Rodriguez, C-Rod. It went down in the featherweight division after C-Rod had to move up, I believe. He keeps the win streak going, does C-Rod. 4 in a row now. Defeating Isaac Dulgarian, like I said, by a split decision. Mark, give us your thoughts on this fight and on this split.
You guys are very frozen. I don't know if you're hearing me. Oh, there you go. Now everyone's back. All right. I assume it's been pitched to me at this point.
It has, yes.
Okay.
It has. Normally when you freeze now, Mike and I just know you're going to come back. So we just let it rock.
Right.
Nice. Yeah, hated it. This was some bullshit. Christian Rodriguez has like some pixie dust on him or some shit where things just seem to break right for him. He did not win this fight. Not one expert on MMA decisions scored this fight for him. Only 9% of the public scored this fight for him. This decision was trash. We had two 10-8 rounds. That much is clear. Dulgarian won round 1, 10-8. C-Rod won round 3, 10-8. And that leaves round 2 to decide this fight. And in the 5 minutes of round 2, Isaac Dulgarian had 4 minutes and 11 seconds of control time. 4 minutes and 11 seconds. That leaves 49 other seconds where he was not in control. Now, to be clear, you know me. I'm one of the first people to say let's not reward holding if the other fighter is doing enough damage to justify the round going his way. But I didn't see this as that. Like, if you compare C-Rod's strikes, where he was a bit ahead of Dulgarian's strikes, you got to add in Dulgarian had 4 takedowns, and you're looking at a pretty even round. From there, you break the tie by saying, okay, there were 4 minutes and 11 seconds of control time. So I don't get it. It was 12 strikes to 8. Like, one of them was solid impact from C-Rod, but again, 4 takedowns, 4 minutes, 11 seconds of control time. So I hate it. I firmly believe Dulgarian got robbed. Now, he certainly gassed horribly, and that is on him. If not for that, he would never even have had to worry about being in this position. So there's certainly some looking in the mirror that needs to be done for Isaac Dulgarian. And I get it. He had never been out of the first round before. He probably trusted his cardio more than he should have. So maybe this is the one where it opens his eyes to the improvements that he needs to make here if he's going to be winning fights at this level. So we'll see how he looks next time out. But either way, I thought he did enough. And instead, C-Rod gets another weird tainted win, whether it's by gaining an advantage from missing weight or winning on bad scorecards. It just seems like there's always something that's breaking his way. And he is good. Like, I don't want to make it seem like he's not. Like, he did, endure a lot and got up and made Dulgarian work and made Dulgarian tired and took advantage of opportunities. And then, of course, beat the fuck out of him in round 3. Like, he's a good fighter. It's just that I think that's kind of lost in this whole situation because I think pretty much the entire world agrees, as I just referenced on MMA decisions, that he did not win this fight.
Okay. Omar, your thoughts?
Yeah, I think a lot of times when it comes to judging, there is a bad habit of rewarding a fighter for looking better than they looked in the last round as the winning fighter. And to credit to C-Rod, because after that first round, that whole ass beating of a first round, the dude came back in the second round ready to go, ready to scrap. You know what I mean? And I thought he put up a hell of a fight in the second round, even with the even with the takedowns and the control and all that. Like, at no point was C-Rod just on his back accepting things. Like, he was consistently fighting, but in trying to regain control all the time and get back up on his feet and stuff like that. Like, Dulgarian was still, in my opinion, racking up points, right? He was still the controller. He was still the aggressor. He was the one landing shots on the ground when there were shots getting landed on the ground. But he did look, C-Rod looked significantly, obviously, he was a 10-8 round in the first round. He looked significantly better in the second round than he did in the first. And I just think sometimes that can sway the judges when somebody doesn't look as dominant in the, in one round versus the way that they looked in the previous round. And I think that's what might have happened in the second round with a couple of these judges. I think they saw that C-Rod had a better performance in the second round, right? Dulgarian wasn't taking him down as successfully in the second round as he did in the first round. And I think the juxtaposition of the performances in the first and the second probably made them lean more to maybe C-Rod took that one, right? Because it wasn't as clear at that point as far as the way that it went in the first round. So it's possible that could have happened. The reality, though, is the fact that we even got to a third round and C-Rod was putting on a 10-8 performance is absolutely insane. It is crazy. to get your ass whooped in the first round, come back in the second round to even put on a decent performance, and then to come back in the third round to absolutely try to annihilate this kid is crazy. This fight was absolutely bonkers from beginning to end. Take away the controversy to it, take away all that. Like, this was an absolute dogfight, and if you love fighting, this had everything for you. Submission attempts, striking, takedowns, ground game rolling, clinching up top. I mean, all the check boxes were checked. I loved this fight.
Okay, man. Okay. That being said, let's talk about where these two featherweights can go from here on the heels of this split decision. Mark, let me start with you. Give me the name for the winner, at least on paper, Christian C-Rod Rodriguez.
I would like to see an established veteran featherweight across from C-Rod next time out as a real gauge of where he's at. So I got two names. One is more established than the other, but both vets. I would like to see like a Darren Elkins or a Daniel Pineda.
Oh, wow. Okay. Omar, your thoughts?
I went with a Ricardo Ramos, kind of for the same reasons. Like, I wanted to see him against somebody who's relatively established, has a little bit of a name to him. I don't hate the Darren Elkins one, though. It's not
sure.
bad.
Ramos fighting on Saturday.
Okay, anything for Isaac Dulgarian, who has lost his O, no longer undefeated, falls to 6-1 as a pro. Mark, your thoughts for Dulgarian?
I want to treat him like at least a little bit of a winner. Not like move him up, but kind of similar level. And I'll say I went with Meerschaert Bagdasaryan.
Meerschaert Bagdasaryan. Omar.
Yeah, I also didn't want to. I did want to move him up somewhat, but I also didn't want to move him too far up. I didn't. Like I said, I thought it was a great fight either way. But I had him in the Jack Jenkins realm, in that direction.
It's a good one. I looked at that too. I don't know if you guys know this already. I just got an update on my phone that Conor McGregor apparently said he received confirmation that he is fighting this summer and that it's official.
Yeah, I will believe that shit when I see something official, because McGregor has already played with my emotions since like last year. So
fair enough. Fair enough.
Too many promises at this point.
Cool. Okay. Let's move on to one last one. Let's see.
Two more.
I thought one more. Chiasson, you want to do Meerschaert?
That was the main card.
Yeah, we're going to do the main card.
My bad. Okay, Macy Chiasson defeats Pannie Kianzad by a submission via rear naked choke. The official time, 3:54 of round number 1 for Chiasson. Omar, your thoughts on how this round played out?
Thought it was a scrap, man. I mean, these girls went down to the ground pretty quickly, were rolling on the ground, going for submissions, trying to find some exchanges down there. Not too much ground and pound overall, but I mean, these girls were playing chess down there as much as they could. Got back up to the feet, ended up back down on the ground again. And to Macy's credit, man, I mean, that rear naked choke that she ended up sinking in was really well placed. And Kianzad was trying everything that she could to try to find an opening to try to get that rear naked choke off. But Macy had it behind the neck. So obviously when you see somebody with their, the arm wrapped around the neck, that's the one part of it, right? That's the part that gets you, but the part that really leverages it in, that part that locks it in, is the part from behind, right? And you'll see a lot of people hold on to the head sometimes. That really doesn't do too much, because that's when people are able to grab the arm, pull it down, release a little bit of the pressure, and kind of fight from there. But when people have it behind the neck in conjunction with their bicep and like that kind of triangle, those 3 points there, man, that's the shit that ruined lives there. And she got it, looked beautiful, and Kianzad, to her credit, like I said, tried to do everything she could to get out of it. Didn't work out for her, and great performance for Macy Chiasson.
Mark?
Yeah, this was a nice win for Macy. She's always had visible talent. She's just had some ups and downs, and now she's really right back in the mix with this win. And you could tell that she knew she had the grappling advantage. Obviously, she subbed Pannie the first time they fought. I'm sure that was on her mind, but she came out and she wanted to press that right away. She looked to drag it down real quick. And, as Omar said, I got to say, Pannie did look good in the defensive grappling. I'm even talking pre this choke. She looked good in the defensive grappling for a while, like much improved from what we saw in her last fight against Vieira. So clearly she's been putting in work there, but she even reversed position a couple times. She made it interesting. She had Chiasson working, so good for her on that. But improvements aside, she still was a notch below Macy, and eventually that was going to, come to light, and Macy exposed that. Once she had back control, she was able to just take her time, working to truly take the back. And then once she got there, Pannie was in trouble. So well done by Macy, and we'll see if she can get that big bantamweight win in her next one that has kind of always seemed to elude her from truly cracking through to the top. But she's going to have another shot now, you would think.
Yeah, man. And her record now improves to 9-3, 7-3 in the UFC. And this is her second win by submission in her career. That being said, Mark, what do you think could be next for Macy Chiasson at ladies bantamweight?
I actually wanted to look how high she ended up in the rankings. Yeah, makes sense. I hadn't looked. I think the best choice for Macy is probably a fight that they tried to book, I believe, fairly recently, if I remember, that fell through, which is Ketlen Vieira. I think they should go right back to that one.
Very nice. Omar?
I was actually looking at Miesha Tate. I thought Miesha Tate's right in that alley there. She is constantly looking for what's next for her as far as the way to the belt. And Chiasson's kind of in her way. So it might be the right way to go.
Thought about it.
Okay. Do you guys have anything to say about Pannie Kianzad?
Yeah, I went Yana Santos for her.
Hey,
right next to each other
so
in the
did I.
rankings. Haven't fought. Book it.
Omar
too?
said me too.
Same.
Nice. Okay. One more to recap before we jump into our lightning round. In the middleweight division, Gerald Meerschaert notches his 36th career win by tapping Bryan Bam Bam Barberena. Wins the fight by rear naked choke. The official time 4:23 of round number 2. Omar, give me your thoughts on Barberena succumbing to the boa constrictor-like hold of Gerald Meerschaert.
I mean, things like that are going to happen, man. You're not one is not to play with Gerald Meerschaert on the ground. That's really not. It's not the way you want to go. Your best chance at putting Gerald Meerschaert in the loss column is to crack him on the jaw. That's really about it. And Barberena, I thought, played a little bit too much with Gerald in there. To Gerald's credit, first of all, Gerald looked fantastic in there. Physically, I thought he looked really good in there. He looked a little bit more dialed in than it seemed like he has been in the past. And so I definitely think there might have been just an extra level of oomph to him this time around that we may not have seen in his most recent performances, but he looked absolutely fantastic in there. His striking actually looked pretty good, where sometimes you're left a little wanting from his striking from time to time. Bryan didn't look bad, but he didn't look, exceptionally fantastic in any one area. And I think Gerald was able to take advantage of that, man. And when he went down to the ground, once we started really battling in that clinch game, you could just see that Gerald was just more comfortable there, knew kind of the steps that he was going to take in there, where Bryan was just a little bit more reactive and not really kind of working on a technique to get out of those positions, just sort of reacting to the things that Gerald was doing in there. And by the time it was all said and done, man, I think the thing that I really took away from there was that he actually put Bryan out with a neck crank. I don't know if I've ever seen that before. I don't know if I've ever seen somebody go out off of a neck crank. That squeeze has got to be next level shit. I mean, that was a crazy.
And it's Bryan Barberena, man. Dude's got a big head.
But that's what I mean. Like, it's to put him out though, like to literally cut the circulation off to his brain.
That's crazy, dude.
Without being under the neck, solely under the neck. That's wild.
Okay, Mark, bringing you in here. What were your thoughts of Gerald Meerschaert choking out yet another victim?
I thought Gerald was surgical in this fight. And usually we use that phrase to describe strikers. It's definitely more fitting in that sense. But I really felt like that's what he was here. Everything was, it seemed like exactly how he would have game planned it coming in. He kept the range beautifully to stay safe. He did a great job closing distance on his shots whenever he wanted to. He kind of step by step out grappled Bryan all fight, set him up, progressed from position to position, and then eventually tapped him. Like you can't really fight any cleaner than that if you're GM3. And to switch to Bryan for a minute, he just can't fight 185-pound grapplers, man. Like he doesn't have the reach or the takedown D. And you need at least one of them. The reach to be able to try to land big before they close on you, or the takedown D to try to force them to strike. And with neither of them, he just ends up backing up to the fence and circling to try to keep a guy like a GM3 off him. And you can't win a fight that way with the game of Bryan Barberena. So I'm not sure if he continues this 185-pound experiment or if he drops back down. I personally think 170 is where he should be. I don't like him up here. And for GM3, he adds another submission to a very long list of them.
Okay. Let's talk about where Mr. Meerschaert goes from here. Mark, Gerald Meerschaert now improves his record, like I said before, 36 wins and 17 defeats. 11-9 in the UFC. This is his, oh my God, his 28th win by submission. He has won almost 4 out of every 5 fights that he wins by submission.
Wow.
That being said, needless to say, he is good at jiu-jitsu. So, Mark, give me the next opponent for GM3.
I really like the idea of him fighting Edmen Shahbazyan. Obviously, I know Shahbazyan is fighting on Saturday, and we're going to talk about him in a little bit. But assuming he can beat AJ Dobson this weekend, I think that would be an awesome fight.
Omar, your thoughts?
Mine's a little bit more crazy. I thought about putting this in the MMA sphere, but it's not super serious. But what I am going to say is Sharabutin Magomedov. That dude just got his visa to travel to the U.S. to fight. So we should be seeing him on a more consistent basis at this point. And I kind of think him versus GM3 might be a hell of a fight.
Okay. Anything you guys have to say for Bam Bam Barberena?
I'm not even going to match him up. I want him to go back to 170, and I'm hoping that's what we end up hearing.
Okay.
I will match him up because
might as well.
The person I will match him up with is probably not going to take his ass down, and we might see a nice little fight. And that person is Punahele Soriano.
Oh, damn, dude. Damn.
Did Puna get cut, though?
Did he?
I don't know.
No, we give one more. Come on.
I always liked Puna.
Maybe I just expected he was going to.
I mean, Barberena might get cut.
No, it doesn't seem like he did from what I'm looking at. All right, fair enough.
Barberena, that was his 4th loss in a row. And he now is a sub 500 fighter in the UFC. He is 9-10 in the UFC.
Yeah, bro. Puna's lost 4 out of his last 5. It's not great for either one of them.
Yeah.
No.
Okay, lightning round, where I challenge Mark and Omar to give me their lightningest quick takes on the results of these fights.
We got a lot of previews to get to.
Do lightning, guys. Really do it. Lightning. Okay, let's see. Mike Davis defeats Natan Levy by submission via arm triangle. Mark, go.
Mike Davis is so good, man. I wish this guy fought more often because I've been intrigued by his talent for a while now. He just never seems to get in the cage, but he's got it all, and he showed it all in this single fight. He dropped Levy clean in the first round. He out-wrestled him all fight long. The jits was on point in different moments. Obviously, he taps him to end it. Like in one fight, you kind of saw all the skills. And I said this last week, but his only UFC loss is still Gilbert Burns. So I'd love to see him get someone more established next time out and let us really gauge where he's at.
Omar.
I would have to agree, man. I thought Mike Davis looked absolutely fantastic. Who didn't miss? Who missed weight though? Because I'm noticing now this is a 157 catch weight.
Oh, I didn't know
Somebody-
either of them did. I don't know.
Sounds like somebody fucked up. Either way, it was a great fight. I thought it was a fantastic performance from Mike Davis. That arm triangle was sneaky as shit. Okay, that man was all the way on Mike Davis, on Natan Levy's back, all the way controlling him. And next thing you know, he done flipped all the way to side control with an arm triangle trapped in there and just took him out. It was a beautiful, nice, sneaky arm triangle. Great performance.
Okay. The now infamous Chelsea Chandler, known now mostly for hightailing it away from our girl, Norma Dumont, gets back to the win column, hopefully putting that in her rearview mirror, getting it done over Josiane Nunez by a unanimous decision. Omar, go.
Hightailing it from a striking situation is not in her rear view at all. She still did that shit in this fight. There's got to be a better way to deal with these things than just literally turning full around and running. I don't know if that's...
I wonder what her coaches say. Are her coaches like, don't do that? Or are they like, yes, that's effective? Do not get punched.
I don't know, man.
Hard to tell.
I couldn't tell you. It baffles the mind for me. I could never turn my back in a fight like that. That's crazy. But this is the thing with Chelsea Chandler, is that her striking is not her thing, right? She's a gritty fighter. She can take a shot for sure. She will stand and she'll bang with you, but she doesn't really have like striking technique when it comes to that stuff. Her ground game is where she excels. Her top pressure is stupid. And her ability to actually do shit from the ground is pretty on point. I mean, she's able to strike from the ground. She's able to kind of set up some submission attempts. Didn't get anything off, but she's able to at least hold down, holding control when she gets down to the ground. The striking, though, is so insanely not there that it is... If Josiane Nunez was taller, I think that fight would have went completely different. But I think the reach disadvantage really had Nunez trying to look for more than what was there. So I like Chelsea Chandler. Not my favorite fight, though, but good lightning.
Mark, start. Lightning, Omar. Lightning.
Were you seeing Mike throughout that whole thing?
I thought he was having a stroke of some kind.
Oh, man. Yeah, so I saw some suggestion online that Josiane Nunez won the first and third round of this fight and should have got the win. There is no chance that she won round one. I even rewatched it just to be sure, and it's not even a close round. So I don't know where that's coming from. Chelsea certainly got 1 and 2. She still showed some worrying signs in the second, getting hit and going for a little run again. But all in all, it was good from her. She outstruck Nunez even in the first and obviously outgrappled her. She rallied in the second and leaned on her grappling to swing that round. And she did drop the third, but, she did enough to get herself a tough win. And she's kind of on the map now at bantamweight. Yeah, it's a shallow division.
True. Yeah. Okay, Rafael Filo, or Jafel Filio?
Filio.
Defeats Ode Osborne by submission via rear naked choke. The official time 4:27 of round one. Mark, do it.
Filio's a beast, man. Two straight first round subs for him after his debut fight where he came so close to tapping Makayev. Almost got that done. And I figured Ode would be in trouble when this one hit the mat. Filio hit a beautiful takedown to get it there early, and it was just his world right away. And he was just patient. He worked, waited for his opening, and Ode survived a real tough spot, but Filio just put him right back into another one and got the tap. So real nice win, and he's another up-and-comer to watch in this flyweight division where we have a lot of them.
Omar, what are your thoughts on the Pastor getting done?
I thought his ground and pound, was what was most impressive. His ability to kind of keep control while throwing shots and landing shots and accumulating their damage on Ode Osborne, I thought was super impressive. And really, it got to the point where the submission just really seemed almost like a way out for Ode Osborne. And not in his sense, but like Filo like giving him like all right, I'm tired of punching you in the face. Let's put you to sleep now. It was a great performance from him. I thought his ground game was a real problem.
Okay, Danny Silva wins his UFC debut, improving to 9-1 as a pro, defeating by split decision Josh Coulibaugh. Omar.
This was a good fight, man. I thought this was a scrap. I I think the second round was the round that was a little up in the air, if I remember it right. I thought the first round was pretty clear for Coulibaly. And then I thought the third round was pretty clear for Silva, but I think the second round is really where it was in the air. Either way, man, I thought it was a good fight. I thought it was a scrap, especially for that being Danny Silva's first fight in the UFC. That's a hell of a welcome party to have Josh Coulibaly be your first fight in the UFC. So good on him. Great fight. Yeah, good to see him. Hopefully we see him soon.
Mark.
I hate this result. Second one on this card that I hated. Josh Coulibaly won this fight, and I'm not saying it wasn't competitive because it was competitive, but Josh won the first 2 rounds, and I don't really see how you argue against it. And if you were ever going to argue for one of them, I guess you could argue round 1 just because Silva hurt him to start the round before Josh came back. And that's not even the one the judges gave to Silva. They gave him round 2 where there was nothing to even give to him. So I blew my mind that Coulibaly didn't win this fight. I love watching him strike. I thought he fought a great fight. He landed cleanly so often. Beautiful footwork, beautiful angles. I loved his variety. It was just great to watch. And Silva, he's a grinder, man. He was tough as hell, and he pushed to the end, and he won round 3 of a tough fight, but I don't think he won that fight.
Okay. Let's see. At 115 pounds, Jacqueline Amorim defeats Corey McKenna by submission via armbar in round number 1, improving to 8-1. Mark, go first.
I think we can accept at this point that you don't want to be in grappling situations with Jacqueline Amorim. You got to beat her on the feet or not at all, because from the second that takedown even began, she was already positioning herself, like in the air, progressing to the triangle as soon as it hit the mat. Then the triangle became an armbar, and she got it 2 different times because of whatever the fuck Mike Beltran was doing.
Yeah.
So she's a problem. I mean, her jiu-jitsu is nasty, and if she can keep bringing the rest of the game along, she's going to be an interesting addition to this division.
Omar.
Yeah, man, sometimes these are the fights that really make me sad on the inside. I'm not a huge fan of secondhand embarrassment. I don't like it. Some people find it entertaining. There's movies where people enjoy a secondhand. I can't do it, man. It makes me so uncomfortable. And watching Corey McKenna get completely steamrolled the way that she did and then just like cry on the floor made me feel super bad. Like, I did not like any bit of it. Amorim looked good though, man. I mean, she got run over, dude. It was not great. I mean, like Mark said, from jump, as soon as the fight went down to the ground and Amorim was on bottom, right? McKenna's base was practically gone. Like the way that her full guard worked, all of her weight was basically in Amorim's chest. Amorim's legs were basically controlling the midsection of McKenna and was just manipulating her body however she wanted it to. Like even on ground on top, McKenna didn't even seem like she had any control over what was going on in the ground game. And it was crazy to watch, man. I mean, to watch the armbar get sunk in once, and then whatever happened, Beltran said something. Amorim thought it was done, and McKenna's like, "I didn't tap," and then Amorim's like, "All right, fuck you," and got the arm back and kept cranking it, and then flipped over a couple more times. All of that crazy shit happened, and at no point did McKenna look like she was anywhere out of trouble. I mean, this was probably a real dominant a performance as you can get in the octagon. I thought it was fantastic.
Yeah, man.
And painful to watch.
That's true too. Let's see. In the lightweight division, Thiago Moises defeats Mitch Ramirez by TKO via leg kicks. The official time, 15 seconds of round number 3. Omar, go.
This shit was nasty. This man had an extra knee on his shin by the time this was all said and done. This might have been one of the most painful leg kick situations I've seen, apart from leg breaks. I've never seen a golf ball on somebody's leg like that. Like, that was some shit. Credit to Mitch Ramirez for lasting until the 3rd round, because I don't know if I would have lasted into the 2nd round, let alone into the 3rd. But yeah, man, I mean, Thiago Moises is an absolute beast. His whole performance from beginning to end was absolutely crazy. The striking was definitely on point. His ground game was on point. I mean, Mitch Ramirez just got fucked up from post to post and left with 3 knees that night. So good on Thiago Moises. Fantastic performance.
Yeah, man. Mark, your thoughts of Moises turning away the UFC debuting Mitch Ramirez?
Yeah, just a poised veteran performance where he handled a short notice opponent as I'm sure he hoped that he would. He was at his suffocating best, high level grappling as always. He was ripping the leg, investing in the leg. And by the end of round 2, it had just become a glaring target, and he went right for it to start round 3. He added in some Donald Cerrone fuck you kicks for good measure. Facts. And that was a wrap on a nice night for Moises. And he took advantage of his mic time too. So well done for him.
Okay, last one. Bantamweight division, Chad Ollinger. I'm totally butchering his name.
And Helliger.
Say again?
And Helliger.
Oh, you cut out.
And Helliger?
Yes, and Helliger. Defeats, I'm not going to try to say this guy's name. I'm just going to fuck it again.
Grigoriou
over Grigoriou. Mark, go.
Yeah, this was a great fight from Anheliger. Grigoriou came out strong and he had the wrestling going, but it was kind of all he had, and it drained him trying to take Anheliger down because Anheliger was doing a great job. He was stuffing takedowns, he was staying up, he was ripping the leg when he had a chance, and he just sort of let Grigoriou tire himself out. And then at that point, over the last round and a half, he really turned it up. Someone on the broadcast, I forget who, compared his movement to Dominic Cruz's, and I really do see it. He's kind of like the minor league version of Dom, and he was on point here, in and out, great footwork, and he just really picked Grigoriou apart as he tired as the fight went on.
Omar, take us home.
Yeah, I think the thing I love about these kind of fights when guys are constantly trying to take people down and they can't do it, the ones that really intrigue me are the fighters that make them pay for it, right? Sometimes, in my opinion, I don't think it's enough to stop a takedown. I think you have to make them pay for even attempting a takedown. So sometimes when you're getting off the cage or you're stopping the takedown, you spin them around, throw a punch, throw a kick, throw something, make them think twice about being in that position again. And we don't see that very often in MMA, and I think we need to see a lot more of it. And I think we saw that a lot with Angle and Helliger. And Helliger in this fight. Yeah, good performance, man. Really, really fun fight.
That does it. We did it. Mark, give us the update of the rankings that you so meticulously maintain, the Priaulx rankings.
So we actually have a lot this week. We have 6 risers of note and 1 faller. So I will start with the negative. The faller is Kennedy Nzechukwu. He had been up at number 17 in my light heavyweight rankings. A win might have even broken him into the top 15. Instead, he goes the other way. He is back down to number 21 for me at light heavyweight.
Nice.
And then for the 6 risers, we'll work our way up the card. Jacqueline Amarim was my number 33 women's strawweight. She jumps up to number 28 now, so a 5-spot jump for her. We'll see if she can keep it moving upward. Next one is a bit wild, but it's Danny Silva, and even wilder for me because I didn't think he won the fight. But he beat Josh Kulabau, who is a very established featherweight. So according to the judges, Danny Silva is my number 24 ranked featherweight right now. So we will see how real that is. Obviously, we've only seen one fight from the man. Maybe he is really a top 25 level featherweight. Maybe he's not. But for at least the next couple months, he is going to be. So he debuts as my number 24 ranked featherweight after the Josh Kulabau win. Next one, huge jump, Jafel Filio. He had been, kind of unproven. He was down at number 38 in my flyweight rankings. Obviously, he taps Ode very quickly, and he now flies all the way up to number 19. So almost a 20-spot move for Jafel. Next one up the card, Chelsea Chandler, goes from number 18 to number 12 in my women's bantamweight rankings. As we were mentioning a few minutes ago, it's a pretty shallow division, so didn't take a lot for her. She's only 2-1 in the UFC, but she's already the number 12 women's bantamweight for me. Next one is the vet, Ovince St. Preux. He had kind of been sliding and falling off the radar. He was down as my number 23 ranked light heavyweight, and I have him right back up at number 16 on the back of this win. So he is in the mix once again for Ovince. And then the last one, it's all the others, I made sure they were at least 5 spots, but I felt like this was noteworthy enough, which is only 4 spots. But it's Marcin Tybura. He was my number 12 ranked heavyweight, and after this win, he is up at number 8. And that is all she wrote for this week.
Okay. Omar, take us into the world of MMA, but not in the cage on the other side.
We're going to be making a couple of very short pit stops here. Nothing necessarily newsworthy, but some things that happened that were, talk worthy, I guess, to a certain extent. John Jones and Tom Aspinall ran into each other. Tom Aspinall tried to size up John Jones. John Jones wasn't having it, then tossed his arm off at him like, "Don't you touch me."
Funny. That was a funny moment.
That was funny. I don't know if you guys have seen the meme about there's a meme of Jamie Foxx imitating Denzel Washington in I forget what that I think is Glory or something like that. Like a movie back in the 90s or late 80s, something like that.
Serious movie, dude.
Yeah. That's definitely not the vibe we're trying to get into right now. But my point is, there's a clip of Jamie Foxx doing like a funny interpretation of one of the scenes, and there was like, "Get your goddamn hands off me!" Right? And everybody was saying that was basically John Jones's vibe when Tom Aspinall put his hand on his shoulder. So nice to see these two at least seemingly like they're going to lay down some seeds, right, for it all, some foundational mess.
For sure.
We'll see what happens, but I thought it was fun.
Yeah.
Looks like what's his name? Ilia Topuria is living his best life in Georgia. Is making his champion run out in Georgia, and people are loving him out there. The man is essentially royalty out there. Like I said, Shara Magomedov has officially been approved to fight in America, now having attained his U.S. visa. So we will see how that goes. And as far as this Conor McGregor thing fighting in the summer, this was based off of an interview that he did making his Roadhouse run, his the movie press tour kind of thing. Did a interview with Mark Raymundi, and basically said all systems are go for the summer. Now, if you know Conor McGregor, Conor McGregor likes to make his own things happen, right? He is a man very much about, manifesting his own things. I'm not saying that fight can't happen in the summer. I'm just saying that him saying it right now doesn't mean that it's actually right now set to happen. Conor McGregor likes to put the UFC in position sometimes to either do shit or look ridiculous. And I think that's really where we're at with this. I think he's just trying to push the issue, trying to force the UFC to either take this fight or look like they're not trying to give the fans what they want. And
it does seem like the UFC does that to fighters sometimes.
I don't disagree with you. I think that the money thing has got to be it's got to be the money. It has to be about money at this point. I just think it's hard to pay somebody something who doesn't need money anymore.
Right. So. True. Yeah. And he's got all these different businesses now. He's got the whiskey, he's got the bar, he's got the beer, he's got the fitness line.
For him, it's got to be about accolades. It's got to be about checking different things off. And that's why I think the 185 thing is a real thing. Because to me, that's exactly something like Conor McGregor would want, is to be able to say that he fought at 145, 155, 170, and 185. To me, that is more valuable for him than another $10 million or whatever by the UFC. Like, he probably just took a piss on $10 million right now as I was saying that. You know what I mean?
I don't think this man is fighting at 185. I really don't.
I think he'll fight Michael Chandler at 185. I don't think he's going to be like a 185er. But I buy it. I'd buy that Michael Chandler and him would fight at 185 just as a one-off. Because that fight's not going to mean anything anyway at this point. I don't even know if McGregor is going for gold anymore at this point. And that might be the holdup.
UFC allows them to fight at 185?
That might be the holdup. Really? Could be.
I'm like, come on, Conor. You kind of can make 170 again, man.
You guys
but you have to again. But you'd have to give him a good reason to do it, and for him to just fight 170 pound fight, just because, as opposed to fighting 185 pound fight and now saying that he's fought at 4 different weight classes, right? The first UFC fighter to fight at 4 different weight classes or whatever. Like, those are, think of the things that he's trying to collect at this point. All of the things that make him unique, all the things that will put him in the record books. And he's done so much with pay-per-view buys and things like that I don't think it does it for him anymore. I really don't. I think he's trying to find something else to excite him. All right. Thanks for my TED Talk.
I kind of feel like, just to add one little random thought about it all, I think all of his side businesses, the whiskey and the clothing line and the fitness line, what's it called? McGregor Fast or whatever it is.
Yep.
I think all those side businesses benefit if he's still fighting, if he's still an active UFC fighter.
Oh, for sure.
So I think that's kind of part of it.
He wants to be fighting. You see him in all these interviews.
I agree with that.
Like he was talking the other day about how he started 2 different camps already and then canceled them because he wasn't getting a date. So he was like, I don't think start a 3rd camp until I know what the fuck is going on, because I already had to cancel 2 different camps.
Yeah.
Could it be money? Like, is he asking for like 80 million and they're like, that's too much for us?
Dude, I'm telling you, I think I really do think it's about, I don't think it's about the money. Granted, I don't think he wants to be taking a pay cut, right? I think he knows what his value is and things like that. But I think more than anything, I think he wants the stipulations that he wants, right? He wants the 185. He probably wants a fucking stadium of some kind. You know what I mean? Like, those are the things that in negotiations, I feel like for somebody like McGregor, like he's going at this point because he doesn't need to fight. I think he can probably stick to his guns for some of these things, but I think at some point they'll come to concessions for certain things. And I think we'll see McGregor back in there, but it seems like it's going to be a pain in the ass of a process. Next on the news list, and the last one, we're going to end with some good news. We reported last week that Mark Coleman was hospitalized as a result of a fire in his home in Ohio. Almost took out his parents, and he went back in to save them, ended up inhaling some smoke, and that was really where the injury part of it came from. We were happy to report that like a day afterwards, he was unconscious in the bed the night of. They had him, I think, sedated to kind of have his body work through all that mess. But Mark Coleman was up and running the day after, conscious, breathing on his own, communicating with his family. So really came out on top of that one. We're really happy to see that he was able to survive that. He actually was back in the gym at the beginning of the week, it looks like. So no time lost for that man. According to him, maybe a little bit. The sad part of the story, though, is that his dog, Hammer, did die in the fire. Hammer, like we talked about last week, was really the hero of the whole story, frankly. He was the one that woke Mark Coleman up. He was the one that woke everybody up to the fire, made sure that everybody was getting out of there, and he also looks like he succumbed to the smoke inhalation as well. So
that sucks,
we are sorry to see that Hammer passed away. Definitely one of the good boys, and hopefully that he gets all the treats at this point. So,
yeah, man.
RIP to him. Let's move on to some fight announcements, and we will move on to this upcoming weekend. First on the list of updates, we have Marvin Vettori is out of his main event against Brendan Allen. Brendan Allen will now be facing Chris Curtis again.
Yep.
First time? Again, right?
Again, yeah, rematch.
Okay. This will be going down April 6th.
He lost him.
Karolina Kowalkiewicz will be fighting my girl Ismael Lucindo. That will be going down UFC 301 on May 4th. Along with that fight, Michelle Pereira is booked against Mahmoud Muradov. Jose Aldo, back in your lives. Wow. Back from retirement. He is fighting the I guess the person who has taken the leg kick moniker from him since his absence in Jonathan Martinez. And this will be a leg kicker's delight. Hopefully Aldo has had some time to heal the shins up, and maybe we will see the Aldo of old and just blasting leg kicks left and right, because I would fucking love that. Again, Aldo Martinez, that is going down UFC 301. And then as of right now, the main event is Alexandre Pantoja versus Steve Erceg, who is getting his title shot. That fight will be headlining 301 on May 4th. There are rumors that they're still trying to fit something in there for a main event and potentially making Pantoja the co-main event. But as of right now, as of right now, that's the way that it is.
Well, I wonder if it's because I've heard Alex Pereira say that he wants to turn around and be on 301 right after being on 300. So maybe if he wins by like first round knockout and doesn't take damage, they're going to try to do that. If not him, I don't know what the fuck else could be main event. Is there even another Brazilian champ?
I have no idea.
Heavyweight, middleweight, welterweight.
Probably the first time in like
lightweight,
forever that the Brazilians aren't running MMA.
Bantamweight, women's bantamweight, women's flyweight. No, and that's right. No, there's no other Brazilian champ. So who? It's Pereira or nobody, unless they're going to make someone who's not champ main event and move Pantoja to co. But that seems wild.
That does seem wild. As we alluded to earlier, Waldo Cortez Acosta is fighting Robelis de España. He's been added to UFC's St. Louis card on May 11th. Michelle Waterson Gomez versus Jillian Robertson, added to UFC's 302 card on June 1st. That's a hell of a good fight. Julian Marquez versus Zach Reese, added to the UFC's June 8th event. Eduarda Mora versus Denise Gomes, added to UFC's June 8th event as well. And last on the list here, Jared Gordon versus Nasrat Hakparast. That fight has been added to UFC's Saudi Arabia card on June 22nd. And I'll tell you right now, if the Nasrat that fought his last fight fights this one, that's a bad night for Jared Gordon. Yeah, that's all we have for you this week.
Very nice.
Very nice. Okay, let's look ahead now to this coming weekend's. Let's do Bellator first, yeah?
Do it.
Yes.
Bellator Champions Series Belfast. Going down at the SSE Arena in Belfast, Northern Ireland. There will be 11 fights on this card, and we're going to talk about the main card, starting with, in the featherweight division, James Gallagher taking on Leandro Higo. So Gallagher, let's see, the Irishman. I forget how to say his nicknames. The Strabanimal?
Yeah, that's it.
Strabanimal. What a funny guy. Let's see. Gallagher is 27 years old. Affiliated with SBG Ireland, Straight Blast Gym, of course. His record stands at 12-2 as a professional, 9-2 in Bellator. And let's see. He is coming off of a win against James Gonzalez. Leandro Higo, the Pitbull, 22-6 as a pro. He's 35 years old, affiliated with Pitbull Brothers. And he's fighting out of Natal, Rio Grande do Norte, Brazil. And he is coming off of a win as well against Nikita Mikhailov. Mark, go first. Give us your take and your pick.
All right, so I'll give you the odds, but just to note really quick for this main card, every single fight prior to the main event is wider, but all of the other four, there is no favorite bigger than -125. So more or less, you have 4 straight pick'ems leading up to this main event, which is pretty cool. That's a very competitive card. In this one, Higo is the slight favorite at -120, and Gallagher is even money at +100. The height is the same. It's going to be a 3.5-inch reach advantage for Higo. Two guys whose resumes have really been built at bantamweight, meeting up at featherweight in this fight. Obviously, Gallagher made the move up one fight ago. Higo has always kind of bounced around a little bit, and he comes back up now after some time down at bantamweight again. And this is an interesting fight where I think Gallagher could potentially show a lot with a win, especially in Ireland. Crowd's going to be behind him. But I just don't think I see him out grappling Leandro Higo, man. Leandro Higo is still nasty on the mat, and there hasn't been any fall off from him at 35 years old. Like, yes, he only fights about once a year, but he's still won 4 out of 5. He just subbed Nikita Mikhailov in his last fight. The concern for me in picking Higo is that he does tend to end up on his back a lot. And if you let James Gallagher get on top, he can ride out that position very well. But it's hard for me to make that pick because I think purely grappling, he goes a little better. And purely striking, he goes a little better. So even though I could see this fight where Gallagher just kind of ends up on top and rides it out and grinds it out, I think I'm going to give the edge to Higo. And if Higo does win this fight, it's potentially the fight where Gallagher finally gets a little bit exposed here as being overhyped by Bellator, but let's not put the cart before the horse. We'll see what happens first. But I'm going to go Leandro Higo to win AUD.
Omar.
I think actually that's exactly what's going to happen. I think Gallagher, I think by itself, Gallagher is a better wrestler. I think Higo is a better grappler overall. But like you said, Higo has a bad habit, like a lot of these high-level jiu-jitsu guys have, where in MMA fights, they like to stay on their back. They're comfortable on their back. They're comfortable playing on their back. They're comfortable trying to find things on their back. But like you don't have infinite time. And so a lot of times by the end of the round, they've been on their back, they haven't done anything, and 5 minutes are all gone. And now you've lost a round. You haven't gotten your ass beat, but you've basically given up control for 5 rounds. You haven't done anything for 5 minutes. And you haven't done anything. And to be honest, in the last fight that Higo had with Mikhailov, in his last fight, some of that happened, right? Higo had some opportunity given to him that he took full advantage of and caught a neck. And could that happen to Gallagher? 1,000%. And Gallagher could 1,000% give him an opportunity to take advantage of. But it's difficult for me to base an entire fight on a small fraction of a second that might or might not happen. To me, it just seems like Gallagher would have. It seems like Gallagher is going to have a lot of success on top, where Higo is going to give him that position and allow him to ride that position out. I think we'll see some things on the feet. I don't think it's going to stay on the feet for long. And I do think it's going to end up taking place mostly on the ground. It might not be the most exciting fight on the ground because I don't think Gallagher is going to want to take a lot of chances on the ground because of the opportunities that Higo tends to take advantage of. So I think it's going to be a 3-round decision. I don't think there's going to be a ton of action, but I think Gallagher walks away with the decision.
I agree. I think this is going to be, it has the potential to be a grappler's delight. These are both guys who are probably best on the ground. James Gallagher, 3/4 of his wins have come by way of submission. I know that Higo is not far off from that statistic himself. I do believe that Higo is the more well-rounded of the two. So I'm going to go with the slight edge on that. I think he wins on points on the scorecards. UD for Higo after 3 rounds. Feel bad for Gallagher, man. He's one of those guys where I really feel it. Like I feel that he just wants to believe it. He wants to believe his way to stardom. You know what I mean? No, am I alone?
Yeah.
Conceive, believe, achieve. Is that what it was?
The thing is, after a certain point, like when you've been shown that you're not as good as you talk, I feel like you need to take just a small step back in humility.
He doesn't talk that great either.
Well, that's true, but what he does talk, he just talks shit. Like he's just talking shit half the time.
Yeah. He is a very popular Bellator fighter. Like, let's not get it twisted. Like the guy's legit.
Yeah, no, he's good, and I don't really have a problem with people talking shit. Don't get me wrong, but like when you are losing, and like, you know, still not really taking a step back and being like, well, maybe I need to work on this, and you're still sort of like, man, we're making excuses and stuff like that. It's not for me. It's not my thing.
Not for me. Okay. Shall we move on?
Yes.
We shall. Okay. Let's see. In the lightweight division, Tim Wilde takes on the undefeated Manoel Sousa. Here we go. Tim Wilde, the experiment. He is the 36-year-old out of Cannock, Staffordshire, England. And he is 17-4 with 1 draw, 5-1 and 1 in Bellator. My man hasn't lost a pro fight since 2019. Here we go. Manuel Sousa, undefeated, like I said. Manu Mitu is his nickname. He is the 26-year-old out of Brazil. His record stands at 10-0. with, let's see, breaking down 6 wins coming by way of knockout, 3 by submission, and only 1 of his wins going to the scorecards. And he is 1-0 under the PFL banner. So this is his first time stepping under the Bellator umbrella here. Omar, start us off. Give us your take and your pick of Wilde versus Sousa.
I think it's a really interesting fight. I think the main deciding factor for me is how good do we think Sousa is, right? He's still relatively new. He had his PFL debut in February of last year, and he won a split decision against Priaulx Rankings. But I think the thing to take away from that is that before that point, he was wrecking people left and right, first round, second round, killing people, submitting them, knocking them out, all kinds of crazy shit. But the moment we get into an area where there's some even relatively decent competition, now we've got a split decision, right? So I just think that somebody like Tim Wilde has probably a little bit more experience, obviously, in there. Probably going to have a little bit more success in there as well, I think, overall. I think for me, guys like Sousa that like to rely on those first round finishes and things like that, especially when they're young and they're coming from some of these places that don't always have the best competition. I think that's really when their defense can sometimes be at its most vulnerable. And I think that they don't necessarily always get challenged in that respect. And I think guys like Tim Wilde and guys probably from here on out in these higher divisions are going to present these kind of problems to him. And I think that Sousa is probably liable to get countered as a result. So I think he loses this fight. I think it'll be a good fight for him to learn from in his early career. But I think Tim Wilde walks away with it, I think, by decision.
Okay, Mark.
All right, so as I said, another close fight odds-wise. They're both minus money here. Tim Wilde minus 120. Sousa is minus 105. 2 inches of height and 5 inches of reach for Tim Wilde. This is an interesting fight because you got to think the PFL's high on Manoel Sousa, especially putting him in this spot. He looked like a killer on his way up before they signed him, and I think Tim Wilde's a really great test for him right now because Tim Wilde, as much as he doesn't have a huge name, the dude is no joke. He dropped his Bellator debut to Brent Primus and has proceeded to go 5-0 with a draw since that time. And he just finished Mike Hamill in his very last fight, which is a legit win. So he's good, but he is 36, which is a decade older than his opponent. So that's a factor. I'm sure it will be a factor for Mike. But on the flip side, he has experience in big spots like this, whereas Sousa doesn't. And he is bigger. That 5-inch reach is a solid reach differential to be leaning on. So it would not shock me in the slightest if Tim Wilde just keeps winning and guts out another win here. I was torn on it. When it comes down to it, I think I am going to go with the man who's 10-0 with 9 finishes and just say that the speed and power of Sousa allows him to catch Wilde at one point and put him down. And Sousa can grapple too if this goes there. So it's a coin toss fight for me, but I will say Sousa round 2 TKO.
I am given pause by the experience level of Wilde over Sousa. He's young. He's fresher. But you're damn right I'm taking the 26-year-old killer over the older 36-year-old guy. Because I have empathy, man, for Wilde. Like I am a little bit older than Tim Wilde, and I know what it feels like to be this old. And I don't love it. I don't love it. I miss being 26. No, I'm kidding. But I'm serious. The thing is, it's not just that he's younger, but he's such a younger, seemingly more athletic guy, and he's a killer. He's a finisher. Only one of his fights has even gone the distance.
So the only one that was competitive.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So I'm going to roll with Sousa. I'll say knockout in round 2. Okay, moving right along here. Fabian Edwards taking on Aaron Jeffery. So Fabian Edwards, the assassin. Of course, he is the brother of Leon Edwards. 30 years old, out of Birmingham, England. He is 12-3 as a pro, with 4 wins by knockout, 3 more by submission. He's 8-3 under the Bellator banner, and he's looking to right the ship after losing to Johnny Eblen at Bellator 299 back in September. He'll be standing across from Aaron Jeffery, who is the 31-year-old out of Niagara Falls, Ontario. Jeffery is 14-4 as a pro, with 9 wins by knockout, 1 more by submission, 4 wins by decision here, and he is 3-1 under Bellator. Here we go. Mark, start us off with the odds, your take, and your pick.
Okay, Fabian Edwards. Whoa, as I slam into my computer. Fabian Edwards is -120. Aaron Jeffery, even money at +100. 1 inch of height for Jeffery, but 6.5 inches of reach for Fabian Edwards. And I really like this fight. And I really want to pull the trigger on Aaron Jeffery, who I've always liked. I've sung his praises before on this show as a guy who I felt could really put it together more than he has thus far. And maybe as this week goes on, I will talk myself into making that pick, but I'm having a hard time going against Fabian Edwards right now, especially in a 3-round fight. You know, he has looked so poised recently. Even in his loss to Eblen, I was impressed. He was controlling range well. He did the same against Gegard. He was walking Johnny down. He was pressuring. He was stuffing takedowns for the first 2 rounds. Obviously, in the third he got dropped. It wasn't even a takedown. So yeah, there was a lot to like from Fabian Edwards even in that loss. And there's a lot he does that really reminds you of his brother. He looks like him the way that he fights. And I just think with only 15 minutes to work and a 6.5 inch reach disadvantage that he's going to have to navigate, I think Aaron Jeffery may run out of time to figure this puzzle out. And I could see him win round 3, but I kind of think Fabian's going to set an early tone in this fight and bank at least 2 of these rounds just by being longer and being a bit sharper and dictating these exchanges. So, you know, I like the talent of Jeffery. Maybe one of these days he breaks through and maybe this is the one, but I'm going to go Fabian Edwards UD.
Omar?
Yeah, I think the thing that for me makes this fight interesting is where these guys really match up. I think Fabian is probably going to be the better striker of the 2 of them, especially at long range. When I think we start getting closer together, though, and we start working in the clinch and things like that, I do think that Aaron Jeffries has a bit of an advantage the closer we get. I don't know if either one of them are really going to try to go for a takedown. I think a lot of this fight will probably be spent on the feet, whether in clinch range or not. I still think that a lot of it is still going to be probably standing. And I think overall it's going to favor Edwards a little bit more. I do think the line is about right, though. This is, I think, a very competitive and a very close fight, especially from a stylistic standpoint. But I do favor Edwards being able to manage the fight a little bit more with it being a fairly stand-up fight, I would imagine. So I'm going to go with Fabian Edwards by unanimous decision.
We are unanimous with this pick. I, too, will pick Fabian Edwards, and I'll also say by UD, just to keep things moving right along. Okay, it's getting real interesting here. We have Patricio Pitbull. This is a champ versus champ fight, taking on Jeremy Kennedy.
No, not champ versus champ. Just one champ.
Oh, my bad. So we got Pitbull, the 36-year-old out of Brazil, of course, really needing very little introduction. He is 35-7 as a pro. Good God, I always just gawk at his record. 35-7. Dear God, he has 35 wins and doesn't even have double-digit losses. 12 wins by knockout and 11 wins by submission. But he's looking to right the ship here, is Pitbull, with back-to-back losses to Sergio Pettis and Chihiro Suzuki, most recently back in July. Jeremy Kennedy will be his opponent this time. JBC, 19-3 as a pro. He is 31 years old and fighting out of Las Vegas, Nevada. Omar, start us off. Give us your take and your pick for Pitbull versus Kennedy.
It's a hell of a fight, isn't it? I mean,
sure is.
Pitbull is one of those guys that you can't. Not only can you never count him out, you really don't know how bad that fight's going to be, right? Whether he's going to knock you out, whether he's going to somehow steamroll you onto the ground. Pitbull is one of those guys that really has a lot of different avenues that he can really take. His hands are obviously very, very dangerous. And at this point, with all the experience he has, even in the losses that he's taken recently, like he's taken losses to some of the most elite guys that they've had on the roster now. So it's difficult to pick against a Pitbull. Another one of these lines that I don't know if it should be this close. I think Pitbull has proven, even in the loss, a little bit more consistency in there. But I don't know if Pitbull is going to get this done by a finish. I would expect that as long as Kennedy doesn't keep him down on the ground, which Pitbull is not very prone to do, I think Pitbull can get away with a decision here. So I'm going to go with Pitbull here, at least 3 rounds to 2.
Dude, you took my pick right out of my mouth. I'll just get it out there now. Before Mark goes, I'll say Pitbull by UDs is my pick as well.
Just recording the picks. Bear with me. Okay, so the last of the tight odds fights here. Pitbull only minus 125. Jeremy Kennedy even money plus 100. Maybe that's because 5 inches of height and 5.5 inches of reach on the Jeremy Kennedy side of things. So he is a much bigger man. After a million twists and turns for both of these guys, where they were booked in multiple other fights each that fell apart, Jeremy Kennedy does finally get his title shot against Pitbull that he's been hoping for through all these bookings. And yeah, he's live in this fight. As I said, he's going to be much bigger than Pitbull. Pitbull's getting older. He's lost back-to-back fights, which is crazy to even think about. We saw his chin get cracked for the first time in his entire career. He's coming off a surgery. I mean, if there was ever a time where Pitbull may be vulnerable to let that Bellator featherweight title slip from his grasp, it may be now. But with all that being said, I don't think Jeremy Kennedy is the guy to do it. I just don't see it. On the feet, I don't see what Kennedy has for Patricio. And historically, unless things have really fallen off for Pitbull, guys like that don't beat Pitbull. You need to have some type of threat for the rest of it to work. And I don't think it's really there for Kennedy. You know, Pitbull's movement is too good. His footwork is too good. His distance management is too good. His counters on Kennedy's entries are going to be a problem. And even if Kennedy does get it to the mat, Pitbull's jiu-jitsu is nasty. So I don't think Pitbull's the type of guy that a pure wrestler is going to beat. Obviously, the odds are very close. I know a lot of people like Kennedy in this fight. And maybe there's a chance we are at the end for Pitbull, and it's just going to be a sad one. But I don't see it. Not in this style matchup. And I'm actually going to say he makes a statement, and I will go Pitbull with a round 3 TKO.
It's going to be a y'all must have forgot moment, perhaps, for Patricio Pitbull. Here we go. Main event here for Bellator Champion Series. Corey Anderson taking on Carl Moore for the vacant Bellator Light Heavyweight Championship of the world. Let us start with Anderson. Overtime. 34 years old, fighting out of Rockton, Illinois. He is, 17-6 as a pro, with a 10-5 UFC record, and now 4-1 under Bellator, coming off of a split decision win over Phil Davis at Bellator 297 back in last June. Carl Moore, where is he here? Is the 32-year-old fighting out of Ireland. He's 12-2 as a pro. He's currently on a 4-fight win streak, and he is 4-0 under the Bellator banner, also 4-1 under Cage Warriors. Omar, start us off. Give us your take and your pick.
For me, this is seemingly tailor-made for Corey Anderson, if we're being wholly honest. Carl Moore seems like the type of fighter that likes to grapple quite a bit. What probably doesn't mind spending an entire round trying to get control and trying to hold people up against defense and basically trying to nullify the opponent. And frankly, Corey Anderson, I think, is just going to be a better grappler, and I don't think we'll allow that to happen. You combine that with the fact that Corey Anderson's got hands, it could be a really bad night for Carl Moore. I think for me, the biggest question I have is whether I think this is going to be a decision or a finish from Corey Anderson. And I think if there's one thing that I could give Carl Moore, is probably his durability. So I will go with decision by Corey Anderson, but I don't think Carl Moore wins this fight at all.
Mark?
All right, so wide odds here. Corey Anderson's minus 400. Carl Moore is plus 300.
Okay, that's
the height is the same. 2.5 inches of reach, though, on the side of Corey. Yeah, so we get a vacant light heavyweight title fight here. Obviously, Vadim Nemkov has moved up to heavyweight, and he has dropped his Bellator light heavyweight title in the process. So Corey gets another chance. Is this the night that Corey Anderson finally gets to wrap the belt of a major MMA promotion around his waist? We will see. Of course, he was well on his way to doing that in the first fight against Nemkov before the no contest. So we'll see if he can right that wrong here. But to do it, he's going to have to beat the hometown boy, literally from Belfast, Carl Moore. So the support is going to be absolutely crazy.
Yep.
That'll be a tough thing to counter. And while he's not a mainstream name, he is no slouch. He's 12-2. One of the losses is to Paul Craig. The other one actually, admittedly, is not a great one, but it's countered by 12 wins. He's 4-0 under the Bellator banner. And he's a tough human. He's one of those guys who just he doesn't go away. It's going to be a hard fight while you're in there with him. But with that being said, I do not think he is at the level of a Corey Anderson. I think Bellator's light heavyweight division kind of has very dramatic tiers, and I think Carl Moore is one of the best of tier 2. But I do not think he beats any of these guys in tier 1, like a Phil Davis or when Nemkov was there, or Corey Anderson. As I said, Corey Anderson was just recently beating Vadim Nemkov. So I think Corey's better. I don't think he runs him over, but I think his hands are crisper. I think the wrestling is going to be there as long as he establishes the hands first, which I think he will. And I just think he is going to slowly take this fight over as it goes on. So give me Corey Anderson, round 4 TKO to finally become the Bellator light heavyweight champion.
I think we are unanimous on this one. I totally agree. I think Anderson is just going to be too much for Carl Moore to take on. I'm going to say Anderson. I'll say also round 5, just to be a little different from Mark. I'll say a round 5 ground and pound TKO for Corey Anderson.
Nice.
All right. Well, 1/2 down, 1 to go. Let's hop over to the UFC side of things this weekend. UFC Fight Night, Ribas versus Namajunas. Amanda Ribas taking on the former champ Thug Rose, Namajunas, the former women's flyweight champ. Strawweight champ.
I'm sorry, I was reading something. What'd you say?
Rose is the former strawweight champ. Not
correct.
Correct. Thank you. Now fighting at flyweight.
Yes.
And here we go. Let's talk about. We're going to do the main card for this one.
Yes.
Sweet.
Could probably lightening a few of these earlier ones. I didn't realize this was like 7 fucking fights deep.
6 only,
true.
right?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7. No, 6.
6, yeah, 6.
Yeah. Okay, sorry, my legs are going nuts tonight. Let's see. We have a couple of prospects. We have Luis. Omar, help me say this name. Pajuelo?
Yes, correct.
Thank you.
Oh, Luis Pajuelo.
Yes.
Pajuelo.
UFC debut on the heels of his win on Contender Series. Looking good. He is 8-1 as a pro, with 7 of his 8 wins coming by way of knockout, the other one being a decision win. Has never been finished himself. He is 28 years old, and he's fighting out of Lima, Peru. Now he'll be fighting El Valentin. No, I said that wrong. Valiente. Fernando Padilla, 15-5 as a pro, 27 years old, out of Chihuahua, Mexico. He's 15-5. Like I said, he out of his 15 wins, 8 of them have come by way of submission. Another 5 by knockout, and he is 1-1 thus far in the UFC. Omar, start us off. Give us your take and your pick.
Yeah, it's interesting. I don't know too much about Luis Priaulx just because of, he's done the Contender Series, once TKO to the body. Looks like he's got some finishes on here. He's got a couple of decisions as well. Obviously, very solid fighter. Fernando Padilla has been in the UFC now for just a little bit, and is 1-1 so far, having beat Arosa and then having decision loss to Kyle Nelson. The thing that I thought was interesting about Padilla early on in his career when we first saw him in the UFC was the length and his ability to use that length. And then he fought Kyle Nelson and somehow forgot how to use his length completely. So I don't really know what kind of consistency we have here when it comes to Fernando Padilla. What I do know is that Priaulx is somebody who seemingly comes to fight. Doesn't have a ton of third rounds in his career, and so I just think he's going to put it on Padilla one way or the other. Whether Padilla comes out winning, and matching that fire or not, I just think that fire is going to come from Priaulx. So I'm going to go with the underdog here. I'm assuming the underdog here, and Luis Priaulx, and I will do second round KO.
Okay, Mark.
So you are correct. He is the underdog. He's plus 135. Padilla is minus 165 as the favorite. 3 inches of height and 6.5 inches of reach for Padilla, so pretty significant size advantage for him. And he is a really accurate puncher. So with the length on his side, that could be a factor. We did see what he can do, as you mentioned, when he finished Julian Erosa in his debut. But also, as you alluded to, I really hated the way that he fought against Kyle Nelson. And it's hard for me to pick him right now coming off of that fight without having seen him again since that fight. He just was it's like he didn't want it. Like he was just in there to be there. And especially when he's fighting a guy in Priaulx who was a national champion boxer in Peru and who brings a high level of aggression and violence. I'd rather go with that guy. Give me the guy who I know is going to look to finish the fight and knows how to do it over the guy who I'm not sure that I can trust to be active in there. So I will go Luis Priaulx round 2 knockout.
I concur, Doctor. I think that Priaulx is going to go in there. I agree. I think he's going to knock him out. I'll go round 1 to be a little different from Mark.
Ball on the dog. Look at us go.
What do we got next here? Let me get rid of these. Billy Q taking on Youssef Zala. Billy Quarantillo is the 35-year-old fighting out of Tampa, Florida. Record stands at 18-5 as a pro. He's 6-3 in the UFC. And he's coming off of a win over Damon Jackson by UD back in August. Youssef Zala, the Moroccan Devil. He is 27 years old, fighting out of Denver, Colorado, affiliated with Factory X Muay Thai. His record stands at 13-5 with 1 draw. And he's dead even 3-3 thus far in the UFC after a 4-2 run in the LFA. Mark, start us off this time. Give us the odds, your take, and your pick.
All right, Billy is minus 160 as the favorite. Zalal is plus 130 on the other end. The height is the same. Zalal will actually have a 5-inch reach advantage, though, which is interesting considering he spent some time at bantamweight in the UFC, and this is obviously featherweight, but he's a long dude. And I'm happy to see Youssef Zalal back in the UFC. I thought at the time that he got cut that it was maybe a little aggressive. He's gone 3-0 since then, and he obviously found himself a short notice opportunity here to hop back in, so good for him. And honestly, this wouldn't be the craziest upset ever, which clearly Vegas sees based on these odds at having him as only plus 130, because he's going to be faster than Billy. He's longer than Billy, and he's probably the better striker, technique for technique. But with that said, I don't feel like I'm ready to pick that. We've just seen Billy break guys too many times for me to not trust him here. And the X factor for me that made me go away from considering the upset is that it's in the small cage. We're in the apex, and we know Billy excels at keeping that pressure. And in the small cage, I think Zalal has a harder and harder time keeping Billy off him as this fight goes on. Plus, it's short notice for Zalal. So if Billy, so I think Billy can take this fight over, even if he has to go to the wrestling. I think he has that in the back pocket. So I'm going to go with him to win AUD.
Omar.
I'm also going with Billy Q to win a UD. I will say the thing that concerns me the most about Billy Quarantillo was really that Edson Barbosa fight. Watching Billy Q run into a well-timed knee because of his aggression, because of his pace, because it's at a point where you kind of know, at certain points you can time that knee quite efficiently because that's what Billy Q does, right? He gets you in the cage. He tries to go for a takedown. He'll throw some punches at you. He'll try to go for a takedown. And it does concern me that happened. And if no adjustments were made, I definitely see Zalal taking his head. I would have to imagine that doesn't happen again. I want to hope that he patched that hole up a little bit. So I'm gonna go with Billy Q here by decision, but it is a concern.
It's too big of a concern for me, and as much as I love me some Billy Q, I mean the guy's a dog, man. I do think that Zalal is going to be too much for him, and I think that he's going to roll on. And I do see Zalal getting out of there with a finish. I'm going to say a club and sub in round 3 for Zalal. But I think Billy's going to hold on until then because he's such a dog. Okay. Here we go. Peyton Talbot taking on Cameron Simon. So Talbot's the undefeated young prospect, 25 years old, out of Nevada, 7-0 as a pro. 5 of those 7 wins being knockouts. He went 1-0 in Contender Series and won his UFC debut against my friend, somebody who I have announced before, and as well as his brother, Nick Aguirre, back in November. And he'll be standing across from Cameron Simon, another young prospect, him out of South Africa. He is 9-1 as a pro. He's 23 years old, out of Pretoria, South Africa. And he's now 3-1 in the UFC after winning on Contender Series. And 6 of his 9 wins have been by knockout. Omar, start us off. Give us your take and your pick.
I wish I could give you a better breakdown of their skills. Both of them are really good. Cameron Simon is somebody who we've seen have great success in the UFC so far. Ran into Christian Rodriguez, who we recently just alluded to, or recently just talked about in the recap, and lost. It didn't really say much about him as far as he's still a good fighter. He's a fantastic fighter. We've seen how good Christian Rodriguez is as well. Peyton Talbot, though, I was really impressed in his fight with Nick Aguirre. I thought he looked absolutely fantastic. And I think the other thing I took away from it was the tattoo, the bleach tattoo that he has on there. And I think my nerd ass is going to have to go in that direction. So I'm going to go with Peyton Talbot here, man. I'm going to go with Peyton Talbot by 2nd round KO.
Would you say it's a bleach tattoo?
It's an anime called Bleach. And that blacked out tattoo that he has in the center of his chest is what is called it's what's put on what's called a hollow in that show. Basically, they're like demon things that fight and are really strong and shit. The point is, it's a nerd tattoo. I gotta be on board.
Okay,
I got it.
All right. Well, we're gonna have different breakdowns. Peyton Talbot is favored here. He's -155. Cameron Simon is the dog, +125. Talbot a little bigger. He'll be 2 inches taller. He will have 3 inches of reach. This is a tough call for me because I feel like what these kids bring to the table is pretty similar. They're well-rounded. They can strike. They can wrestle. They both can snatch up a sub if you make a mistake. It's not necessarily what they're 100% looking for, but they're both capable of it. Obviously, we just saw Talbot do it. But really what makes it tough for me is that I just don't feel like I've seen enough of Peyton Talbot yet to confidently make a pick here. So I know what I've seen from Simon. I know that I have been, fairly high on him. Not that he's going to be some title contender, but I have liked what I've seen. I trust his scrambling. I trust his ability to mix things up at the right time to swing fights in his favor. He's always seemed to have a knack to know had to change a fight. It's entirely possible that I come out of this saying like, oh, wow, Peyton Talbot is really good. Like, we got to keep an eye on him. But we'll see. For right now, the pick for me is Cameron Saaiman, and I will go with the UD.
I'm going to side with Mark on this one. I'm a little salty because Peyton, he beat my friend last time.
Sure.
And yeah, I mean, nerd tattoos aside, I'm down with that to a certain extent. That's cool. But that being said, before Cameron Saaiman ran into Christian Rodriguez, I mean, the man carried a lot of hype with him into the UFC. The young man, I should say. He's only freaking 23 years old. So I'm going to roll with Saaiman on this one, and I'm going to say that he's going to get the better of Peyton Talbot on scorecards. I'll say UD for Saaiman. Okay, few more here. 3 more. We go up to the middleweight division. Edmund Shabazian taking on AJ Dotson. Shabazian is the 26-year-old fighting out of Las Vegas, Nevada. Where's he from originally? Isn't he not American?
Is he?
I thought he was not American.
He's Algerian, right? Is he Algerian?
I don't know. It says he's from LA here.
Yeah. Maybe.
Yeah, I don't
American.
mean born.
My bad.
I don't know where he might have been born here. I just mean like his background.
Oh yeah. Oh no. Okay. Yeah, he's born. He was born here. I have no idea where he's.
My bad.
Yeah.
My bad, Edmund. So 26 years old, a red-blooded American. He is fighting out of Las Vegas, Nevada. He's 12-4 as a pro. I can't believe he's still only 26.
Yeah, Armenian. Yeah.
He, after going 1-0 on the Contender Series, he is now 5-4 in the UFC. Of his 12 wins, 11 of them have been finishes, 10 of those being knockouts. And this time, he's going to be trying to knock out AJ Dobson, the 32-year-old out of Powell, Ohio. His pro record stands at 7-2 coming into this weekend, with 5 of those 7 wins being finishes, 2 knockouts, 2 submissions. He's 1-2 in the UFC after winning on Contender Series. And he's coming off of a UD win over Tafan Nzechukwu. Mark started off this time. Give us the odds, your take, and your pick.
So Shabazian is 2-1. He's minus 200. AJ Dobson is plus 165. 1 inch of height for Edmund, but 1 inch of reach for Dobson. So they are pretty similar. I think Edmund should get this one. I admit Dobson has shown some potential at times. Obviously, he did look good in his last win over Nzechukwu, but I'm just not convinced that he's on this level. Or rather, I guess I should say I'm not convinced Edmund has fallen as far as some people may think. Like, yes, he's lost 4 out of 5. That's never a good look. But the 4 men that beat him are Derek Brunson, Jack Hermanson, Nasruddin Imavov, and Fluffy Hernandez. Like, it's going to happen with all those guys. Those are like top 10 level fighters throughout. And I still think Edmund is plenty fast enough and plenty powerful enough to hurt AJ Dobson in this fight and maybe even do it quickly. And I don't think Dobson is like an overbearing wrestling threat that Shabazian can't handle either. So give me Edmund Shabazian. I will go round 1 knockout.
Omar.
Yeah, I generally trust Edmund Shabazian. I know he's had some inconsistencies as of late, to say the least. But I still think he's a very good fighter, man. I still think he's really at the top of the pack when it comes to his skills. I think his biggest issue, is trying to actually put it all together and really getting into that mindset that really works for him. But I think skill for skill, I think the kid is very, very talented. AJ Dobson has also kind of had his highs and lows in here, but he hasn't had them, in my opinion, against the same, necessarily level of talent. They've both ran into guys with good names. I just think Edmund Shabazian has just run into a few more of them, and I think the names are a little bit stronger. So I'm going to go with Shabazian here. I wouldn't be surprised if AJ Dobson necessarily wins the fight, but I just have a little bit more confidence in Edmund to win this. So I'm going to go with Edmund here by unanimous decision.
I'm going to depart from you guys on this one. I think that Shabazian has really been making me nervous as of late. I know that he's been a young prospect. He still is super young. I forget that he's only 26. I think of him as a guy who was young in the UFC and now has sort of aged and grown up before our very eyes. But no, he's still only 26 years old. That being said, a lot of red on his record as of late in the past few years, since 2020, basically, since the pandemic. He has lost 4 of his last 5. I need to see something more from him before I start really getting back on the Shabazian bandwagon. I'm going to say he drops another decision to Dobson here. So UD for Dobson is my pick. Okay, 2 more. Here we go. Co-main event UFC Fight Night. Ribas versus Namajunas. So the co-main event in the heavyweight division, we have Carl Williams taking on Justin Tafa. So Williams, 34 years old, born in the U.S. Virgin Islands, fighting out of Atlanta, Georgia. He's 9-1 as a pro, currently riding a 6-fight win streak. He's also 2-0 in the UFC, also 1-0 under the PFL banner. Let's see, has not lost a fight since 2021. Most recently, he beat Chase Sherman quite a while ago, back in 2023. Almost a year ago. Justin Badman Tafa, the 30-year-old, born in West Auckland, New Zealand, fighting out of Brisbane, Australia. 7-3 with 1 no contest. Currently riding a 3-fight win streak. He's 4-3 in the UFC, and most recently he let's see, what did he do? He knocked out Austin Lane in the first round. This was back in September. Mark started off again. Give us the odds, the take, and the pick.
So Carl Williams is favored. He is -185. Justin Tafa is +155. 3 inches of height and 5 inches of reach for Williams. I will admit it is entirely possible that Justin Tafa is leveling up from the guy who lost to Jared Vendera not that many fights ago. He has knocked out 3 straight dudes since then. But none of them had the avenue of wrestling that Carl Williams has. Now, granted, no one ever takes Justin Tafa down, so maybe he has much better takedown defense than we realize, but I kind of tend to think he just hasn't really fought opponents who are dead set on doing it. If you look through his list of opponents, there's not too many huge wrestling threats on that list. And Carl Williams has looked like a beast, man. He's super strong. He runs you over with takedowns, runs through you. He's aggressive. He has cardio that looks like it should outlast Justin's cardio. And the jab has looked educated enough to me to be okay when they're standing across from each other. So I think it'll be a risky one, especially if there are multiple entries in this fight. He's going to have to avoid uppercuts and shots like that where we know Justin Tafa excels. So certainly a dangerous fight. And like I said, Tafa might be getting better than I'm giving him credit for here. It's hard to tell because of the opponent list, I will say. But I'm going to go Carl Williams to win AUD behind his wrestling.
Omar.
Yeah, I really hate picking against the Tafa brother, just for my own mental sanity. But the reality is, just like Mark alluded to, Carl Williams' wrestling is kind of a problem. And I think more so just because it's what he relies on. And like Mark said, Justin Tafa hasn't fought anybody that relies on their wrestling the way that Carl Williams does. Granted, Justin Tafa has 100% takedown defense in the UFC, but that happens when no one actually tests you. So I guess we'll find out this weekend what that takedown defense really looks like. I'm going to choose to believe in Justin Tafa because he's Justin Tafa. Sure. But I am not going to be surprised if this ends up being a ground show for Carl Williams. But I'm going to go with Justin Tafa here. I say he gets a Tafa thing done, and we're going to go first round KO.
I'm with Omar. There's something magic about those Tafa boys. Give me J Tafa. Give me J Tafa by knockout. Oi! I'll say round 1. Oh, it would be his Carl Williams' second first round knockout loss. All right, boys, main event time here, UFC Fight Night, and this will close us out for tonight. We made decent time for a pretty long episode. Let's see. In the main event of this UFC Fight Night, in the women's flyweight division, Amanda Ribas taking on former champion Thug Rose Namajunas. So, introducing first out of the blue corner, Thug Rose Namajunas, really needing no introduction to MMA fans and diehards especially. 31 years old, born in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, fighting out of Arvada, Colorado. Her record as a pro stands at 11-6. She's got to be way up there for like fewest fights to a championship. Because
fair thought.
After all this time, her pro record still only stands at a pretty small number of fights in 17 pro fights.
Yep. Less than 20 career fights, and she's won the belt. What, twice?
Yeah. Because she's such a star. She is 9-5 under the UFC banner, and she is very much looking to right the ship here on a 3-fight losing skid here. The 3 losses were against Carla Esparza. I believe that was for the belt, right? That's when she lost the belt, right? And that was one of the worst fights ever.
The worst fight ever, not one of.
That was the worst fight ever.
Jillian Robertson choked her out. And then Manon Fior.
Who choked her out?
Jillian Robertson.
No, she did not.
Lost her naked choke.
She did not fight Jillian Robertson. You might be looking at a jiu-jitsu match, dude.
Oh, yeah.
Tapology. What do you want? Tapology? Yeah. Tapology doesn't give a shit. They'll put in a 5K in there if they want.
No, and you can sort it out by clicking off grappling. I don't know.
And that's correct. Now that I think about it, I actually remember when she lost that grappling match.
That was pretty recent.
Yeah. That makes way more sense now. Even when you said 3 in a row, I was like, 3 in a row? I thought it was 2. But yeah, now now everything's clicking.
Tapology. I wish there was a way to default turn that off on Tapology. Anyway, definitely still looking to right the ship because she suffered back-to-back losses for the first time in her career in MMA, losing to Esparza and then now Fior. And here we go, introducing out of the red corner, Amanda Ribas. She is the 30-year-old fighting out of Brazil. Her pro record stands at 12-4. Let's see here, 7-3 under the UFC banner. And she's coming off of a nice win against Luana Pinheiro back in November. Okay, here we go. Omar, start it off. Give us your take and your pick for this main event.
This is a really, really difficult fight to pick. And I think the reason this is so difficult is because Rose has been out for she's been out for a little while, even prior to the Manon Fior fight, but it feels like her activity is just not there. Granted, it wasn't like she was the most active fighter back then, but it just felt like we always saw Rose fighting somewhere. And for whatever reason, just between the Carla Esparza fight and even this last Manon Fior fight, which she looked like the smaller fighter, she looked like she was getting out muscled in that fight. I don't know. It just hasn't really seemed like Rose has been there. So it is difficult for me to pick Rose at this point. It's difficult to know where she's at mentally. Were there issues with her and Perillo? Because I feel like there were issues with her, Perillo, and this dude. What's his name?
Perillo? Do you mean to say Trevor Whitman?
Yes, that's what I meant. Actually, yes. Trevor Whitman and
what happened against
Pat
Fior?
Barry?
One of them didn't corner her against Fior. Either Trevor or Pat. I'm forgetting who was not there. I think
it was
Fior.
Trevor, because I think Pat kept telling Trevor, or kept trying to tell Trevor what to do, or kept going against the advice that Trevor was giving, or something along those lines. So like the coaches thing wasn't really vibing, and obviously Pat is, the husband / trainer and has been for forever. So I think he just took precedent. I don't know. I really don't know what to make of Rose, man. And it's not like Amanda is somebody that I could count on with my eyes closed either, as far as that's concerned, which is really a big problem. And what makes this fight, I guess, equally interesting and also equally difficult to pick. So I really don't know. Amanda Ribas could absolutely be on and could really tear some shit up. Her combos can be fantastic. Her speed could be fantastic. And then there are days where she gets taken down and days where it doesn't look like she's fighting at all. And there's no combos and there's no volume. And she's just standing there and getting beat. And so it's difficult to figure out which one of these women are going to show up. So I guess I'll stick with Rose. I guess just Rose has just fought some of the best in the division and has been for forever. And I'm going to try to trust her experience in this one. So I'm going to go Rose here by unanimous decision.
I'll go next, and I will say that I will go against Omar here. And I think that Amanda Ribas is going to have a moment here. And on paper, at least, the biggest win of her career over the former champ and beloved thug Rose Namajunas. I think that I envision Ribas totally being on. I love what you said about her kind of sometimes being on and sometimes not. But I think she's going to be on for this one. How could you not be? And I think I see her being a little bit bigger and more physical than Rose Namajunas. I think she's going to get it to the ground. Rose always has had an underrated ground game and great submissions. She really became known more and more as a great kickboxer as her career went on. But that being said, I think Ribas is going to have the advantage on the ground. I think she's going to out-physical Rose, and I think that Ribas is going to cruise to a 5-round decision here. So UD for Ribas. Mark?
Cruise. Wow. Very bold. All right. Ribas is the underdog. She is plus 200. Rose is minus 250 as the favorite. 2 inches of height for Rose, 1 inch of reach for Ribas. I love this fight. You guys know that I love Amanda Ribas. I'm always stressing how I think she's continually underrated in both of these divisions. I prefer her at strawweight, but same goes for flyweight. And I'm happy to see her get an opportunity like this against a big name and to main event a card. But with that said, I don't think that I love this matchup for Amanda. What makes her great is that she is aggressive and that she's a threat to finish most girls wherever her advantage lies in that particular fight, whether it's on the feet against a particular opponent or on the mat against a particular opponent. She knows how to leverage it. She'll hurt you in both places. She's a problem in both places. But against Rose, I don't know where that advantage lies. Like, she's certainly not a better striker than Rose. Is her jits better? I mean, maybe by a smidge if we're trying to see it her way, but I don't think I see her tapping Rose Namajunas. And the problem for me with Ribas is that she gets hit a lot and cleanly. And she's tough as shit, so normally she can push through it. But it's not a 15-minute fight, first off. It's a main event. And it's a higher level. And 25 minutes in a cage against a striker as technical and as precise as Rose, who will set you up the way that Rose will. It's a lot of minutes to not get hit cleanly. And I don't know if Rose is going to be winning the fight or losing the fight or what, but I just think that over those 25 minutes, she will catch Ribas a few different times, and eventually it's going to be one time too many. So I will go Rose Namajunas, round 4, TKO.
Ooh. Well, that about does it, gents. And we're getting out of here under 2.5 hours. I like it.
Just.
Is Mark still talking?
Sweet. Good work, gentlemen. What time are these fights on? I haven't even looked.
Probably something dumb.
I think Bellator is Friday. Oh, also on in Bellator news, I was bitching to you guys when it seemed like Bellator was going to be on DAZN with this new PFL deal, because I thought they were going to be on ESPN Plus since that's what PFL is on. But they just made a new deal today where in the US they're actually going to be on HBO Max. So if you pay for HBO, you can watch Bellator for free.
What the fuck?
So I'm happy about it because I do pay for HBO.
Well, your boy does not, so it looks like you'll be taking some goddamn Bellator cards for a minute.
Dude, a movie guy like yourself, you don't have HBO to watch shows?
No, I don't.
You're
once they canceled my Titans and they canceled all my shit, they can go to hell.
You're just
You're
straight straight
No, I'm
movies.
not a
Huh?
Tennessee Titans fan. I'm talking
Why?
about the
Like, what
superhero
happened to the
Titans.
Bellator website? Why can I not? Why is this so hard to find? Did I just find it? Let's
I love
see.
how Mike thought I was a Tennessee Titans fan.
I'm like, that's random as fuck.
No, Titans was
No, I
Titans
knew that.
is the Teen Titans.
Yes, I know.
Yeah, I don't know. Bellator's on Friday, but I can't even figure out what time it's on. Maybe you have to go to the PFL website these days. Who fucking knows? But the UFC main card is a regular 10 o'clock main card on Saturday.
In the Apex. Their times are so arbitrary, I don't understand it.
It is
I
true.
It is. It's very random.
All right, gents. Let's reconvene this time next week and talk more MMA. Anon.
Do it.
Go.
Adios, amigos. We'll talk soon.
Peace.
Thanks for joining us, folks. Peace.